2+2 is proud to bring you the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
This week on the Pokercast, Doug Polk, Brad Willis and $1 million Spin&Go winner Alexander. Now, Adam and Terrence aren't here because the Pokercast is hosted by me now. The Pokercast bot, Pokercastico.
Welcome, everybody, to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. I'm your host, Dave Schwartz. Joining us again in studio, and it sounds like for a while, Mr. T. Chan. Thank you so much for rolling into the studio in that fancy car of yours. Oh, it's not your fancy car.
Fancy borrowed
family car.
Stolen car. Yes.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, I needed to. I had a little dentist appointment, then I had to pick up Ross in the whip, and then come down
and then roll in
here.
But Rossco also joining us. Thank you, sir, to produce this fine program each week.
Hi. Nice to be on your show again.
Ross sounds a lot like Chainsaw. That's so weird.
T, some big news this week. The fight you led us to believe might happen is actually going to take place. This is May 30?
May 30th at the River Rock Casino show theater.
Love it.
Hope you'll be there. Hope you guys will be
I'll be there with bells on.
Definitely. Of course, obviously, MJ. Otherwise, how would I know you guys are going to be there? If you guys are. Hit him in the face! Yes, that's what he'll probably
be yelling.
Yeah, I think all of us will take turns yelling that, probably.
Oh, yeah. I've got an opponent.
So let's talk about your opponent. Give us the rundown. Who are you fighting?
He's a bit bigger. He's 145 pounds. Young kid. I think he's like 20 or 21 years old. I watched his last fight.
And
big and strong, good wrestling, good ground and pound. Seems to be.
He doesn't listen to the show. Give us an idea of your weakness.
Mostly ground fighter. I think his striking is weaker, but I think when you're at that age, I think there's always an undeveloped part of your game. But I mean, I'm just going to hope to be kind of better everywhere and not let him take me down and keep it standing and beat him up a little bit on the feet.
So you're going to box.
I'm going to try to box. Yeah, I mean, it's a very fluid thing. It's always seeing how it goes. I mean, you always want to fight wherever your opponent is weakest and wherever you're strongest relatively. I mean, it's like say, playing a mixed game. If you could triple the stakes for your best game, that's what you would want to do.
As Tyson says, everybody's got a plan to get punched in the mouth.
Finally get punched in the mouth.
Now kiss.
But I'm really excited. I mean, I'm training really hard. I feel like I've been in a car crash every day right now.
Really?
I looked at and I couldn't believe I woke up and I'm like, oh my god, it's only Tuesday. I've got like 4 more days of training this week. You
gotta love it though. You don't love it. It sounds like.
It's hard. Like training for the martial arts is great. It's a lot of fun. It builds a lot of character. It makes you feel good. Training specifically for a fight is not so much fun. It's really rough. You're getting Shark Tank by the Shark Tank is basically like you might do like 6 rounds, but each round is against a fresh guy every time. So you're in there on your 5th and 6th round, and they're coming in they've got blood in the water, and they're just coming in there to kick your ass. And that's what's really terrible about it, because the idea is that it makes you stronger, but it's rough, so I'm just kind of hoping to survive the next 4 weeks and then get a payoff and take it out on the other guy. That's the real fun part about it is getting in the ring, and
so you said
when it all pays off.
He's 140, you said?
Well, yeah. Well, he's the fight is scheduled to be at 145 pounds. I've never fought at 145. Yes, exactly.
So that sounds heavy for you.
Well, I fought at 125. I fought at 135. This will be my first fight at 145. I woke up this morning at like 139.
So you're not going to be getting into the plastic suit and jumping in the sauna for this.
I will not. I get to eat all the carbs in the world that I want.
That's good.
I just get to like pig out on sweet potatoes and fruits and all that kind of stuff. It's great. It makes training a little more tolerable when you get to refuel with the carbohydrates.
So when you say carbs, I think Big Macs. When you say carbs, you think sweet potatoes. Totally different.
Yeah. Well, you just I get to the fast digesting, healthy carbs, lots of vitamins and minerals. It's good stuff. Helps the body recover a little bit.
Well, you don't have to worry about watching any playoff hockey anymore.
No, in fact, I would have missed Game 7, just being in the gym yesterday, because Game 7 would have been yesterday for the Vancouver Canucks. So, yeah, I just set the DVR to record the Islanders and Capitals finish and watch that casually. No spoilers on that one.
Canucks are indeed out.
But sports, but speaking of sports and speaking of fighting, it's the fight of the century this weekend.
5 years too late. The fight of the century.
Fight of the century,
sure.
But it's happening. Mayweather, Pacquiao, or you guys?
Hit him with your cane.
Neither of you guys are boxing guys, but
I'm definitely interested.
There's our buddy, our mutual friend Chris Mugg is having a party at his house, so we're gonna go all over there and have some beers and watch.
The pay-per-view in Canada is like $120 or something.
If I ask, I have to chip in, so I have.
Yeah, so you just bring the six-pack and just forget about it. Yeah, but it'll be fun. It's going to
be fun.
I think Mayweather on the money line is tremendous value. I hate to say it.
I made a bet Mayweather not to win in decision.
Not
better than even money.
So not to win by decision. So you have.
I can have every other result except Mayweather winning in a decision.
Oh, really? Okay, because that's obviously the most common outcome. Is probably going to be Mayweather.
Most common, but is it better than?
I don't know. I think so, because I think Mayweather's been the decision in like 5 straight or something like that. He's won them all. I have kind of. I guess I have Pacquiao not by knockout, and I'm laying like the minus 800 or something like that.
Pacquiao not by knockout. So Pacquiao decision.
No. So anything other. So Mayweather decision, Pacquiao decision, not Pacquiao by knockout.
Oh, okay.
So we sort of have. We can actually both.
Can we both win?
Yeah, I guess Mayweather by knockout would be both of us winning.
That's right. There we go.
But yeah, so fight a century.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I want to correct. Last week I incorrectly said Pendleton was in California. I apologize. Pendleton obviously is in Washington. So sorry, Oregon.
I thought you were trolling again.
No, it was a little bit.
Pendleton,
Oregon, where of course I forget her name already. She won 3 tournaments in a row. That's what we're discussing.
Yep.
Fantastic. By the way,
the girl who's not Asian.
Yes,
the Italian-Mexican girl.
I tried this cold shower business that you and Kuhn are talking about.
Yeah, I did it this morning.
Oh, my God. It was the most miserable experience I've had since I don't know when. I pumped it on full cold. I wasn't going to do one of these.
So what was your strategy? Did you just roll out of bed and
rolled out of bed, and we were in a hurry to get downtown because we're starting early now. And I thought, perfect, because I had almost no. By the way, this show is going to be a dumpster fire. I had like 4 hours sleep. I've had no time to prep for the show. I apologize in advance. Some other issues were taking up my time.
I haven't slept much either, so this will be fun.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
So only the host and the producer.
Yeah. So I thought, perfect. I got up real early, and I'm going to need to be awake, jolt myself. Oh, yeah. Kuhn, we just had Kuhn on talking about this cold shower stuff. So I'm going to try this. I jumped in, and I didn't do the warm to cold. Okay. I thought that was kind of a cop-out.
So you just blasted.
I just went full cold, and I jumped in, and I screamed so loud. It was miserable. I don't have many joys in my life.
You got to tolerate
a long hot shower is one of those joys.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was robbed of that, so I'm not.
But you did some good for your body this morning.
I did, yeah.
You did.
TV Poker Hand Madness.
I haven't got to check out that thread yet.
It's going strong. Okay. Thanks to everybody who's come in and suggested their favorite televised poker hand. We're going to do a bracket-style tournament where we take nominations in the thread for your favorite all-time televised poker hand. And the ones with the most nominations are going to get seated in a bracket, and we're going to play down to a winner. Thanks so much again to everybody who has come in and nominated some hands. We need all the nominations we can get, so please, if you haven't yet, hop on over. Think about some of the hands that you enjoyed watching over the years. Nominate them, and we'll get going in this bracket. It's going to be some fun. We'll maybe even have some of the people who played these hands on to talk about the hand as we get down to close to a final. So go check that out. One of the original posts, I put some instructions in there, and one of them was to embed YouTube videos of the hand. The thread has now become a bit slow loading, shall we say,
especially in your computer,
for 3-year-old Macs that are run like crap. So instead of embedding, maybe just a YouTube link so people can click and follow over to YouTube and watch.
Like you created a monster.
The hand. That was not good thinking on my part. part. But so yeah, don't embed anymore. Maybe just put the link in or a description, and if you're plus one-ing or you can just quote the hand and put plus one.
Oh, that's the worst when people just like quote a video and put plus one.
You don't like that?
Well, because then you're just like loading another video of the same.
Oh,
video,
the same one for no reason.
Like,
Yeah,
you're just making everybody's browser terrible.
So please, jump over and take care of that. That's going to be some fun. I'm looking forward to seeing who takes that sucker down. So let's get into some In Case You Missed It.
Now, it's time for In Case You Missed It.
How did he miss the open goal? 6x4, and he comes up 0. Oh, no!
Oh, yes, he missed it.
He's missed it! How on earth did he miss that?
I keep thinking to myself that intro should be shorter, but I don't know what you cut out. It's all fantastic.
It's all great. Yeah,
you don't want to lose any of that.
The part that always gets me is like sort of that hip hop esque bass line that goes through it with the sports broadcasting. Yeah. But it's kind of fun. I'm learning to dig it.
In case you missed it, a new series of documentaries on poker is out. It's called 10 for 10. These documentaries, the series is called 10 for 10. The first one that I have come across, it features a movie about our reigning World Series of Poker champion Martin Jacobsen, and
they look awesome.
This one looks fantastic.
Like the 2-minute trailer looks fantastic.
It's really well done. You can see that they've spent a lot of time with Martin behind the scenes.
Super high production values.
Yeah.
It seems like they've got a lot of access to different media. Like you see some like poker news stuff in there. You see some ESPN stuff in there. It's just really
you hear
well
Mike
done.
Johnson talking at the beginning and in the middle.
Yep.
Did you hear the?
I did. It's right off the top.
Yeah, MJ's in there. He was. I was talking to him last night. I sent him a text.
Yeah.
I said, "Have you seen this? The trailer for this documentary?"
Right.
And he said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, he doesn't follow poker at all anymore.
Right. Yeah.
He's done with it. So he went over. He looked at it. He's like, "Don't they have to get permission for that kind of thing?" And I'm like,
"No, they don't." So here's the thing. If you're not quoting, if you're not taking a huge segment of content, I have no idea. I'm just saying that if you use a small portion of copyrighted material, that generally constitutes fair use, as long as you're not taking the whole thing in its entirety or just taking an inordinate amount. You're allowed to use a small amount of content and borrow it for your own purposes for that. I'm just saying that that's a thing that's a legally well-established concept, and it makes the world great because it induces creativity and stuff. So situations like that, people like MJ, he's a member of the media. He talked about poker for a living for 9.5 years. So eventually he's going to say something useful about the reigning world champion of poker.
Our buddy CF 410, who is always keeping our feet to the fire about copyright infringement.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, look, I understand. His point was.
Well, he's wrong.
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't really know. And I've just seen. And there's a big difference, by the way, of using 20 seconds of a song, or take. And the original thing that he's referring to, I think, was the issue we had with the copyright material from PokerTube. And it's a bit different when somebody is directly, and Poker Update was their old site, and it's different owners now.
Yeah, they're taking
They took entire
thing.
content and put their name on it that was somebody else. It's a lot different than taking.
Yeah, like if this documentary streamed an entire episode of the Pokercast where they talked about it, or even that segment, that would be out of line.
Yeah,
it's not even close.
Shots fired.
So MJ, I had a little chuckle with him last night about that. That was good. But
we're getting off topic.
We're getting off topic.
It's cool documentary because what I was really impressed with is, did they follow around all the final table lists and they just ended up with they just ended
That's
up
a good
using
question.
Martin stuff, or did
I don't think there's any way they could have,
because it's lucky because you obviously, if you're going to follow somebody, you never know who's going to win the thing. I don't remember where I think Martin was like third in chips to start. I don't remember exactly.
He was third. I want to say. No, he was farther down. I want to say he was like.
I remember that he was really low at one point, but I can't remember what he started at. But obviously you want to select somebody who's got a shot at winning, but you also want to select a guy who's a story and he's got all these.
Well, you had Billy Pappas. You had some really good stories there. You had Jort Van Hoof. You had Martin Jacobsen. I mean, there was a lot of really good stories there. That you're right. They got lucky if they did just follow Martin, but I can see why they would have done that because when you look down that list before the final table, Martin was surrounded. He had a preparation that was interesting. He had an entourage, and he had all the top or many top players behind him helping him out. I mean, there's a lot to build a documentary around with him.
It'll be really cool to see all that really behind the scenes stuff. There's some shots of home games in there. I know we had JC Alvarado on a few weeks ago. I remember I talked to him and he asked JC for like nutritional tips, like what should I actually eat during the last day and all this kind of stuff. And I'm looking forward to checking that out for sure.
Looking forward to that. I'm not sure exactly. And MJ also mentioned the issue of calling it 10 for 10. The documentaries is sort of a bit of a rip-off on the 30 for 30.
Yeah.
You could have probably come up with something.
I don't even get because 30 for 30 referred to. I think they were originally doing like 30 documentaries from 30 different documentarians. What does 10 for 10 actually refer to?
I'm not sure, but it seems like it's going to be 10 video. I think they're all done by the supplement company that sponsored a lot of a couple. I'm not sure if it was just Martin C-Lipped or something.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was. I think they're the ones putting it on. I don't know if they're all going to be poker related or not because I believe they sponsor not just poker players but C-Lip, C-L-I-P. I can't remember what it was. Something like that. Anyway, so I think there's going to be a few more that they roll out. In case you missed it, we talked about our 10-year anniversary last week. This is the 10-year anniversary of the Pokerstars blog.
I didn't get you or Brad anything.
What is the 10-year anniversary? It's like paper? Wood?
Okay, I'll get
something like that. In case you missed it this week, Terrence, one of the mainstays of the online poker information is 10 years old, much like this show is. The Pokerstars blog has
everything. It must have been a really exciting time for poker media back in 2005.
We didn't know what we were doing. We were just throwing darts at a board. People have been going to the blog for first-hand reporting from all the live stuff around the world that the Pokerstars is responsible, all the online news, the big happenings at the tables. The Pokerstars blog has been sort of the center piece of all the information coming out about the different stuff Stars is involved with. The man behind the scenes responsible for it is none other than our old pal, Mr. Brad Willis. He joins us now. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, guys. How are you today?
Fantastic. I don't mean to one-up you, but I think we started like a week before you guys did with our old Rounders podcast.
I felt that way all along. It's been 10 years now, and every time I run into you in one card room or another, I always feel like you've always been one step ahead of me.
Yeah. Or like I was saying, throwing darts at a board. I don't think we thought we were going to be on for maybe a month, 3, 4, 5 shows. Here the show is 10 years later. What was your sort of thought at the beginning? Did you have? Was it let's run with this? Was it a big thing where you planned a lot of it in advance, or it was just sort of this weird time in poker back then?
I'd love to say that I had 10 years of this planned, but honestly, I told my wife at the time, let's give it a year and see what happens, and please don't quit your job, honey, because we may need it. No, when we first started, there wasn't. When I first started with Stars, there wasn't a Pokerstars blog to even be had. We pulled up a blogger site and created a couple of different one-off blogs for the PCA and the EPT just to see how it would work. And so in the beginning, the plan was just to do some of the live events and see how it worked. And then eventually we were able to convince the big guys that maybe a blog was the right idea. And the idea I had behind it was that television at that point had already started to make stars out of some of the big live pros and make characters out of some of the big live pros. And I'd been playing online for a couple of years at that point myself and realized that there are a lot of characters online. And if we can find a way to turn those avatars and turn those screen names into real people, then there are a lot of stories that can be told. And between that and the news that Pokerstars was putting out on its own on a regular basis, it seemed like we just needed a portal for all of it.
Brad, I wanted to talk about those first PCA or EPT one-off blogs. I remember the very first. There was a cruise ship, and it was sort of a blog. It was sort of like a 7-day journal. Is that still online? Can people see that? And sort of what are your thoughts on that one? It's sort of the proto blog, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, there were so many people, or not so many, but there were a few people in the very beginning of poker who were trying to write online in one way or another. And, John Vorhaus was one of those people. He was doing it for UB back in the day, and BJ Nemeth was about starting things up around the same time. But in that year before we started blogging for PokerStars, Lee Jones was on that cruise ship and basically put out almost a Nolan Dalla style recap of the day from the boat. Right. And last I saw, those were still available in some form. We may have to use the Wayback Machine to find them exactly, but Lee's posts were online for a long time. So he was the beginning of PokerStars Blog back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, like you said, there was poker journalism back in the early 2000s was always these this is what happened on this day thing. Now it's evolved into this thing where you're really diving into the sort of the human interest stories, and that was something that when you started, I guess, the proper PokerStars blog that you get into. One of the first posts that I remember was from the PCA when you really started to dive. The first PCA at the Bahamas, I guess, where you started to dive into like who are these people playing on PokerStars, and was that sort of driven by yourself? Was it driven by Lee? Was it driven by Isai and Mark? What was sort of the idea to take those sort of human interest stories instead of this guy has the chip lead story?
Well, I mean, I had several different ways of looking at it at the time. One, I came from a journalism background, and even at the time, at that first PCA in 2005 that I went to, I had been telling people stories for 8, 9, 10 years at that point, and so it was just a natural inclination on my part at the time to do it. I'd also been a fan of poker writing overall, and I'd read everything that had been written about poker in one way or another, whether it was Andy Glazer's reports from the World Series, or it was Jesse May's fiction, or Jim McManus's books. And I'd read so much, and I wanted to try to do that same thing online and do it in real time. And I got there. I mean, I won't say that I had a huge plan, because I got there and my eyes just turned into saucers at like all of this crazy money getting passed back and forth, and all of these people who were such gregarious, crazy people, unlike anything I'd seen in a home game. And I just realized there were so many stories to tell. And at the time, there was just one of me. I was one blogger there, and I was so excited just to be able to tell as many stories as possible. I mean, one of them, Terrence, was you. I mean, that was the year that you placed 20th in the PCA, and all of my friends, or my mutual friends,
remember that. Who remembers the 28th place finisher in a poker tournament from 10 years ago?
Well, it was easy because I remember I misspelled your name the very first time I wrote it down, and Lee Jones nearly broke his damn leg coming across the room. And that's not spelled A-N-C-E, it's E-N-C-E.
Wow, thank you, Lee.
So he made sure I never misspelled that again.
But I bet I didn't get as many hits on that particular one as the story you wrote about one Jennifer Lee. I remember that story very well.
You know what? That story itself became the very first moment I realized that having comments on a blog that was based on a company was probably a really bad idea. I
was going to say, so for those who don't know the story, Brad wrote a great story about Genocide Jennifer Lee, who the former poker pro, who subsequently appeared in Playboy, beautiful blonde woman, and
Playboy.
Yes.
Oh,
sorry. Yeah,
no,
and the comments in that thread were as not appropriate. I guess
misogynistic.
Yeah, a little bit misogynistic, and you were forced to take that down. Now, do you think the comments in a corporate blog, do you think that could ever come back? Because there are companies that do that kind of that do have some comments. Obviously, you've got to moderate, you've got to be reasonable, and then you kind of have to be ready for the worst. Would that ever come back to the PokerStars blog?
Well, yeah, I can't say that it won't, and I won't say that we actually aren't having active discussions about it right now, because, I mean, I believe that We've experimented with it several times over the years, and I don't think that there's any. It's no secret that the Pokerstars blog represents PokerStars, and there's an image that we like to maintain on the Pokerstars blog. And while comments might not necessarily reflect what we think, seeing something, whether it be something that's very misogynistic or something that's racist or something that's homophobic or whatever on our actual page, it makes us feel bad, and it requires a great deal of moderation to be able to do it. At the same time, what we've also come to believe over these many years is that the PokerStars blog, or really none of the poker world itself, would exist without a certain community. And we think that allowing comments could enhance the community of the PokerStars blog. We've seen it on 2+2 to where, sometimes it gets vile, but oftentimes it's a very valuable part of the community, just like any forum, just like any blog. And I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying we're going to be doing a lot of updates to the PokerStars blog over the next year, and one of those updates could very well involve comments.
I want to get to some of your favorite stories from the past, but before we do that, I want to ask you about some of the ones that got away, and if there are any that stick out in your head of stories that I wish I would have been able to get that one. I think back to when we were down there, we were trying to at the PCA, we were trying to get an interview with Victor Blom, and he just would refuse to do them. It was right at the time when he was announced as one of PokerStars pros, and it was an amazing story at the time. However, we didn't get that one, and I kind of always wish we would have. Is there some there, Brad, that you kind of look back and go, damn, I wish we would have got that one?
I think the way I look at it is because we're associated with PokerStars, we're often, tipped off to things in advance that might be happening that are related to PokerStars, but that necessarily comes with the understanding that because we're reporting for PokerStars, we're going to embargo it until such point that PokerStars wants it out. I'm put in that weird position because we are, a corporate blog for all intents and purposes. That being said, there have been a lot of times over the years that either through my own professional discretion or my own friendship discretion, I've seen some things that I would have liked as just a proper journalist to have reported on, whether it was, something happening in the business world that was exceedingly interesting, or something that was just an amazing feature story. There was one night David Williams was out playing on a yacht at the PCA, in a high-stakes game, offshore somewhere that I knew was happening. I tried to get to, and I couldn't make it happen. But it was those kind of stories that were happening behind the scenes that sometimes I wish that we'd been able to report on a little bit better.
Was that any chance that was Guy's yacht?
I honestly don't even know where it was. I know that I was whose yacht it was. I just know that it was happening, and I had a message into David Williams to let me go with him, and didn't get there.
I remember some stories back in the day of Guy having a yacht and having a giant game on it, sailing around the Mediterranean too. I imagine it's difficult for you to be able. Some of the stuff that you come across isn't always.
Let's just say like the National Enquirer version of the
blog would be
that only exists in Brad Willis's head.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like maybe one day if people piss you off the wrong way, it would be you would write the greatest poker tell-all of all time. Is that right? There's
stories that only get told when I know that I have enough money to not have to ever work again, or I've had enough beer and I trust you very well.
Let's get to some of your favorite stories over the years. There's got to. I mean, when you think about it, you look back. The blog has been on hand for many of poker's biggest moments, right? I mean, I think you guys were, especially when you're traveling around to all the tournament venues around the world. You were there for it all.
Yeah, that's, I think, the thing that I feel most fortunate about. I fell in love with this poker community more than a decade ago, and I've been able, and all the people I work with have been able to see, poker history happen, the goods and the bads. And, I knew that we had something special happening almost immediately when, we started this blog in 2005, and it was that same year that, I had gone and I'd played in an event at the World Series and had only planned to go to the main event when my then boss, Dan Goldman, called me and said, I was on vacation with my wife. He said, I need you back in Vegas right now. There's too much happening here. And we got there, and sure enough, it was just, the poker world was blowing up at that point, and I was able to stay out there for most of the rest of the summer. And I remember that time to where, Greg Raymer at the time was a big, PokerStars pro and the reigning world champion, and watching him take, another deep run down to the final three tables and seeing what was almost like just a history-making final table run there, clued me in that we were about to see a lot. And from that point forward, we've seen every World Series, we've seen every EPT event, we've seen, basically every major tour outside of the World Poker Tour since then. And, I look back to that moment. I look back to, sitting at the Rio in the 2010 World Series where Jonathan's, having champagne poured all over him by his friends who are all wearing Habs jerseys, up until just, last year when Vicky Corin won the second, became the first person to win 2 EPT main events. We've seen so much and been very fortunate to be a part of it all.
Now, that being said, you talked about all the incredible events that you've witnessed over the last decade. When you wrote the retrospective, and for those who want to take a look at it, the title of it is "Thanks for 10 Years of the Pokerstars Blog." And Brad, you outline about a dozen stories that were sort of, that you feel, I guess, were emblematic of the blog. A lot of those aren't really like the biggest events. A lot of these, we've got, like, say, your favorite story is, you're right, the Matt Affleck elimination and all the emotion that was involved with that. But I mean, if you talk about the biggest 10 stories of the last 10 years, it wouldn't necessarily be this list, right?
No, I don't think so. And I think it's because we as a blogging team have found ourselves in a position where over the years, in the very beginning of the PokerStars blog, there wasn't a lot of online reporting that went on. But since then, there have been a lot of companies that have come up and heavily staffed on the idea of live reporting. And so we found ourselves in a position where we're not necessarily telling the biggest story of who won this event. I mean, we tell those stories, but what we've become known for more than anything is finding stories that don't pop up on the front page of Poker News or aren't the big discussion that are happening on 2+2. They're stories that happen behind the scenes. And one of those that you just mentioned was, back during the 2010 World Series, Matt Affleck's bust out. It got a little bit of time on ESPN and it got a little bit of time in the other blogs, but my colleague Howard Swains wrote this amazing story just after following Matt up and down the Rio hallway for, half an hour that really showed people what it was like for that one person who busted out with a couple tables left to go, where you couldn't find that anywhere else, and that's something we're proud of. When
I read that story, I mean, I went back and reread it because while reading your article, and I know exactly that feel. Obviously, I've never been as deep as him in the main event or had a bust out quite like that.
I think if you're a poker player,
that sentence of the way that he sort of walks to the cashier, then changes his mind and walks back this way and goes back, and you just have this sense that like you're lost.
Well, and multiply that by how many times, because he's on the verge of becoming one of history's greatest, a main event champion. The money, sure, but to a guy like Matt Affleck, it's really about that winning that main event.
If you only want to read one article out of the PokerStars blog, that might be the one. That's fantastic.
It's believed universally inside the PokerStars blog and outside the PokerStars blog is the best thing we've ever published. And Howard Swains, who wrote the article, is probably one of the most humble guys who never wants the kind of attention he gets. But we have to promote his stuff for him because that kind of stuff is fantastic.
Brad, in an online world where content formats are constantly changing, just the Twitch thing that's going on right now, how this is a blog, right? I mean, not a lot of people. We have Twitter, we have Facebook. Are blogs as relevant as they once were? How do you guys keep it relevant?
It's funny. Just in the last 2 days, just before we came online, I was watching Doug Polk on Twitch playing against the artificial intelligence machine. Yesterday, I spent about an hour watching George Danzer and Ike Haxton play a cash game in Europe. And then last night, I watched the Poker Night in America feed for about an hour before I called it a night. And I realized that I'm spending a great deal of my time watching Twitch and yet I'm a blogger. And over the years, we've seen so many different innovations that have gone past blogging. I mean, at the very beginning of our blog, we were a blogger site, and we were updating and timestamping things, and it was the type of thing that just wouldn't fly today. And then we were outrun by people who were, live updating with amazing, new technology. And then all of a sudden, EPT Live and Pokerstars.tv started streaming everything live. And we thought, is there ever going to be a place for us again in the poker world? And what we've done, and I'll say maybe by accident, but I like to think there was some amount of forethought that went into it, was that we realized that, yes, all of these things are here, and we, whether it's Twitter or it's Facebook, we all are looking for something in this immediate, need-it-now fashion. But we also want a historical record, and that's what I think the Pokerstars blog and its relevance still is that no matter what happens, no matter what videos are produced and no matter how immediate people want their news, people are going to want to go back the next day and read about what happened. People are still going to want to see a box score. People are still going to want a historical record. And whether it's, 5 years ago or it's 10 years from now, people are going to want to know what happened on this day and what happened with that tournament. And we're providing that historical record as much as we can for the poker community.
And you're doing it in a much more in-depth way than something like, obviously Twitter by its inherent format. And what you picking up on what you and Adam just mentioned, that relieves me to hear that, because I've always wondered about the future of blogging myself. I've always worried, everybody wants their content at 140 characters at a time or on a Facebook update like that. And is there still a place? Because I enjoy reading blogs and I enjoy reading long form writing and really good writers as yourself. So, it's really good for me to hear that you think that blogging as a medium continues to have a future, even as attention spans seem to be getting shorter.
Yeah, I mean, at our roots, we on the PokerStars blog team are storytellers. And, a lot of us are old guys. And by old, I mean, 40 or thereabouts. And we're all trying to keep up with the latest technologies and doing our best to do that. But at the same time, at our roots, we're storytellers. And we believe that regardless of how fast people want it, how short people want it, if we can tell a good story, people will listen. And that's what we're trying to do every day.
All right. Well, we won't take up too much of your time, but I did have one more question for you. On that blog post, your 10-year anniversary post, the first couple of people that you thanked were Isai and Mark Scheinberg. Obviously, everybody knows how critical they were to anything that touches PokerStars. We've talked about that on the show. You also mentioned a good friend of yours, a guy that I've certainly met a few times and spent some time with, Will Wheaton, who speaking of blogging, he is one of the most prolific bloggers probably of our entire generation. How about giving us that story? You just told us that that he turned down the gig to write for it and got you into it. So what's the relationship between you and Will Wheaton, as people, the guy that most people just kind of know as a child actor and maybe somebody who was on Star Trek for a little while and somebody who played a little bit of poker for a year or two?
Yeah, I mean, Will and I were casual online friends prior to the 2005 PCA, and he was a very well-known blogger at that point, as well as an actor and a person who had written some books. And as it happened, he had been reading an online blog that I'd been writing for a while with a couple of my friends about poker and liked what we'd been writing. At PokerStars, knew Will could write very well, and PokerStars knew that Will blogged. And Will knew that he played poker as well. And so Lee Jones went to Will and said, would you please come and write about the PCA for us? And that didn't fit into Will's schedule at the time. And without telling me he was doing so, he told Lee, you should check out this other guy that I've been reading. And Lee called me one night back in November.
Blog? He was reading your,
yes,
yeah. So you can go ahead and pimp your personal blog on this too.
Well, the blog at the time was called Up for Poker, which is now defunct. But my personal blog is called Rapid Eye Reality.
That's right. Okay.
That was the very first blog that I ever started, and I started that back in 2001 and still use it today to some degree. But Lee, called me back in November of 2004 and said, hey, this Will Wheaton recommended you for this gig, and I've read some of your stuff. Do you want to come give it a try? And so I was still in TV at that point, and I took a week off from work at the beginning of January and went down and wrote for a week. And at the end of that week, I saw Mark Scheinberg and Dan Goldman and Rich Corbin and Lee Jones all putting their heads together and looking across the room at me. And I thought I might be in trouble. And then Lee called me over a couple of minutes later and said, "What would you think about just doing this all the time?" And I quit my job 2 weeks later, and about a week later, I was in Copenhagen, Denmark on the EPT. So if it weren't for Will turning down a job and recommending me for this one, I don't know where things would be today.
Thanks, Will Wheaton, indeed. Brad, thanks so much on a personal level for everything you've done for the last 10 years. I would like to let you know and footnote here that I do steal a lot of my research from your fine blog each week. When I'm catching up on a subject, I tend to head over to Pokerstars Blog if it has anything to do with PokerStars. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. And you seem to hint there's some new things coming, hopefully, for yourself and the blog in the future. If that's the case, good luck with that. And I look forward to seeing what's coming down the road.
Well, guys, thanks for all you do, and thanks for your friendship over the years, and I look forward to seeing you guys down the road.
Fantastic. Talk to you soon, sir. In case you missed it, an arrest warrant was issued for Seals with Club's chairman, Bryan Micon, yesterday in Nevada. The Nevada Gaming Commission is the people that raided his house. Remember, we talked about the story a couple months back. He has since fled to Antigua with his family. He was or called himself the chairman of Seals with Clubs. Now, that's interesting in that, there's a few things I think it seems like, again, not alert, but it seems like this case, if it ever gets held, if Bryan comes back and faces the charges,
I don't see that happening, by the way.
You don't see it happening?
Him coming back to the United States?
I can see a scenario where this becomes sort of a rallying point for the Bitcoin community in that setting precedent. I think it's sort of interesting that they brought the case because if Bryan comes back and gets some legal backing from the Bitcoin community to be able to set precedent, and if he gets really good lawyers and he feels like he can win the case, comes back and says, "Look, everybody, Bitcoin, this is something that we could set some precedent for in the U.S. court system."
So you're saying if they set sort of a legal fund or donation,
if the Bitcoin community rallies around him to make this a case that they can stand on, it might be interesting, and I wonder if that happens, how aggressive the government would be, given that if they lose, that creates a problem for them going forward as far as Bitcoin and enforcing that.
Right. I'm actually looking on the Reddit Bitcoin site, and it is up there. I don't see it as huge a story as you do necessarily for the big Bitcoin community. I don't know if the Bitcoin community recognizes it right now as a game changer immediately, so I don't know that they would rally around that.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I meant, like, this is a scenario that could happen.
Right.
Will it happen? I don't know. I mean, It seems like he's in Antigua and
if I, say if I were to set a line on, say, Bryan Micon setting foot in the United States in the next 4 years, what side do you like?
No, I like the no for sure.
You like the over, right? Yeah.
But it's such a joke. I mean,
of course.
And the other thing, by the way, that it might turn on is the fact that he called himself the chairman, not the. Is there enough to prove that he owned? And I imagine they have bank records and stuff that he profited from it, but.
A lot of bank records of that. I mean, even things like him being on 2+2 and being promoting it and stuff like that. I mean, he was obviously an instrumental part of that, and it's pretty clear that he was pretty heavily involved. And I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not a lawyer. His case doesn't seem that strong to me. Like, even though I am 100% for he didn't do anything. He didn't harm anybody. He didn't steal any money from me.
He ran a successful site.
He didn't hurt anybody.
He didn't steal a penny.
So, the obvious libertarian aspect of me thinks this is not somebody you need to come in with the SWAT team and point machine guns at this man's family. Clearly, but Was he on the wrong side of the law? Yeah, I mean, probably was in this case. You are running an internet poker site out of Nevada, and Nevada law says you can't do that unless you've got a gaming commission license.
Right. Yeah, that's at the personal level, but on the bigger level of how is this guy, being the one prosecuted when there's people running around who stole millions and millions of dollars from players,
of course.
And all he did was run a good site and was honest right from the day. I mean, you can say what you want about Bryan Micon,
right?
But the site seals with clubs.
Right. It was a popular site. People
well-run
enjoyed
site.
Played in there. People thought that they had a lot of credibility, and they trusted that.
And it makes no sense to me at all why he's the one that is the one who's exiled now from the U.S. when there's Russ Hamilton and Ray Bitar and others who Ray faced legal issues but got out of it because he's sick or something.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Russ Hamilton. I mean, it couldn't be more clear that this guy's guilty. We have him on tape saying he stole money. You know, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, go after Russ Hamilton.
Nuts. So we don't have a ton as far as other content. We have a lot of guests today. We just had Brad Willis, of course. We've got Doug Polk, who's coming on the show to talk about the man versus machine that's going on in Pittsburgh right now.
Rescue us from the bots.
He is going to slaughter the bots. It's like he's trying
right now. We're
crushing. Humans are crushing before today. I haven't looked today yet, but they're doing quite well so far. Brad's. We're also going to be joined by. Sorry, not Brad. Did I say Brad? Doug. We're also going to be joined by Alexander. This is a man who has just become PokerStars' newest millionaire. He entered a $5 spin and go from.
He goes by just Alexander. Or
I don't think he probably wants to talk about his last name.
Fair
Understandable. He lives in Russia, in Moscow, and so that's not. There's a few Alexanders.
He's an Alexander in Moscow.
That's not
who is now a millionaire.
So we're going to have a little chat with him. No, it's not a soundboard interview. We're not his accent. I'm sure is going to be pretty Russian rough.
You're just assuming. You don't even know. For all we know, this guy was.
I've corresponded with him. I've seen a bit of broken English in the emails, so I'm guessing.
Very aggressive.
He's not. He's going to be a little harsher than Teddy KGB. I think it's going to be a little rougher, but that's okay. It'll be fun. I want to hear exactly how that whole thing went down. I'm fascinated by, we talk about Matt Affleck on the verge of becoming a many-time millionaire.
Yeah.
This is a professional poker player who presumably has a bright future and did quite well in tournaments.
Right.
Who's getting that upset about a similar amount of money. Right. Mm-hmm. Here's a guy that probably means more. The title we talk about with Matt, but the pure money of it, I'm just going to go guess that this probably means more to this guy than it did for Matt.
Yeah, and especially since it just fell out of the sky. When you're deep in the main event of the World Series of Poker, you actually have a reasonable expectation of a 7-figure payday. When you're just some guy grinding like spin and goes, this is just money that fell out of the sky. You never think it's going to happen. You always dream about it, but
so we'll get to that later. But our strategy partner for the 2+2 Pokercast, of course, is CrushLivePoker.com, owned and operated by our good friend Bart Hansen. We do a strategy segment each week with Bart, and this week it's
attacking limped pots.
Attacking limped pots.
Yeah.
With Bart Hansen. Here's your strategy segment from CrushLivePoker.com. Stick with us after the break. We're going to talk to Doug Polk. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. More right after this.
Hey everybody, welcome to another 2+2 Strategy Minute brought to you by CrushLivePoker.com. I'm Bart Hansen, and this week I want to talk about attacking limped pots. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of the old adage, don't go broke in a limp pot. That's not the worst piece of advice that you can give somebody, but we can actually use that adage against our opponents. And there are several different situations where you can actually attack people in limp pots, and they will not continue on. Solely, or most importantly, because it is a limp pot. The best types of boards to do this are the really, really good multiple barrel continuation bet boards, the same exact types of boards, and those are boards that are disconnected, where the top card is likely to change by the river. So I always use the example like 9 deuce 3 rainbow. 9-4 rainbow, 7-deuce, 7-3-3. You know, it's a little bit different with a pair on the board and a limped pot because someone could have trips. But any type of, you know, board where the highest card is kind of a medium card, it's disconnected with 2 low cards. If a guy leads out, you know, of the big blind on a 9-4 board and you've over-limped with a hand like, say, Jack 10, if you raise that guy, how long is he going to stick around with a hand like 9-8? Or even King 9 or something like that? When you have a couple of overcards and a backdoor straight draw, of course, you've got equity to improve your hand as well. But, I mean, we're basically playing off of the range of our opponents when they lead out on limped pots, and just guys are just not going to be able to hold on with a top pair that's likely to not be top pair by the end of the hand. Now let's get back to the Pokercast.
Hey, poker players, don't forget to participate in the weekly Pokerstars Invitational for Pokercast listeners every Sunday at noon Pacific, 8 p.m. in the UK. Just $1.10 with $500 added to the prize pool each week. Formats vary, but you can always find it in the private tab of the tourney lobby. The guys will announce the password somewhere in this very show. See you at the tables.
Hey, it's Mike from the 2+2 store and ProfessionalPoker.com. 2+2 is pleased to announce the release of their most anticipated book in ages, Applications of No Limit Hold'em, a guide to understanding theoretical sound poker by Matthew Jonda. This book will give you the ability to create the bet sizings and ranges which will beat the better players. The theory in this book is not designed to be complex or abstract, but rather it's intended to be applied immediately, producing better overall results. Many confusing concepts, such as overbetting, balancing multiple bet sizing ranges, donk betting, and check raising as a preflop raiser, are crucial to a player's strategy, despite few players implementing them or talking about them. And after reading this book, you should be able to not only conceptually understand these ideas, but also know how to begin incorporating them into your game, and thereby successfully compete against tough opponents. And at the 2+2 store, we accept all credit cards, plus PayPal and NetTeller.
Hey guys, this is Bart Hansen for CrushLivePoker.com. Whether you're a recreational player who wants to compete at the tables, or you're a professional and you want to increase your win rate, the material that I've produced at CrushLivePoker.com will make you a better poker player. Act now and you can subscribe for free by using the coupon code TPC11. That's TPC for the Pokercast 11 and get your first month free.
Playing 50 big blinds deep with antes, the villain in the hand opens to 2.2x from the cutoff, and I defend my big blind with ace-free offsuit. The flop comes ace-6-9 with 2 clubs, and I check call a 3 big blind c-bet. The turn is a free, bringing a second flush draw and giving me 2 pairs. And once again I check call, this time for 5 big blinds. The river is a 6 of clubs, completing the flush and counterfeiting me as well. I check and he bets 11 big blinds. As it's close to the worst possible hand I can have at this point, and I have full house blockers, I turned it into a bluff and check raise all in.
Team Pro Online's Mickey Moment Mori Peterson is a Supernova VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
Terrence, last week it was rumored that 4 top poker pros were going to take on a heads-up no-limit hold'em computer program. That was, I think it was Nolan's blog who leaked that info.
That's where I saw that first. Yep.
It was the bot is assembled by the folks over at Pittsburgh's Carnegie Mellon University. The bot has a name. It's called Claudico, and I don't know why it's called Claudico. Well, maybe we'll find out from Doug this week. It was confirmed that our guest here today, Mr. Doug Polk, Dong Kim, Bjorn Lee, and Jason Less are going to be the humans battling this dastardly computer. The plan, have these matches streamed on the Poker Night in America website, later broadcast them on the CBS Sports Network. Joining us, of course, one of the 4 guys taking on Claudico. It's our old friend, WCGRider, Mr. Doug Polk. Doug, welcome back to the Pokercast.
Hi, thanks for having me back. It's good to hear you guys' voices again.
Well, let's talk about the challenge. Give everybody exactly the framework. Maybe they haven't read about it. This is 4 top head-up no-limit hold'em players playing against a computer bot put together by people at the Carnegie Mellon University. This is the computer science university, I'm sure. Doug, give us an idea of the format. This is it's sort of like a duplicate no-limit hold'em where you're going to play the computer with hands. The hands are going to be switched, and another player another human's going to play those hands in the opposite direction.
Yeah, so the format is actually pretty interesting because they've managed to control a lot of the variables in poker. So essentially the way that it works is that this is an 80,000 hands challenge with a human team consisting of 4 entrants. Each human player will play 20,000 hands. And each human player is paired up with another player. So I'm paired up with Jason, and Bjorn is paired up with Dog. And the way that it works is to minimize the effects of variance in hands. What they're doing is they're giving each player the exact same cards. So when we begin a session, there's already like a series of cards that are randomized, and it's given to both of us. So what it's actually measuring is, how the humans do with the reverse scenario, how the bot does with the reverse scenario, with the difference being the edge that they're creating.
Okay, but before we get into some of the stuff here, give us an idea how it came about, Doug. I'm sure as one of the top, no-limit hold'em players in the world, you get a lot of people kind of contacting you, hey, I want to test out my bot against you. I mean, how it started out that way? And give us an idea of sort of the beginning of this.
Yeah, okay, sure. I got reference to a few different, a couple poker players who sort of this was going on, and they were debating doing it. And they had been put in touch by someone else as well in the high stakes community. So it kind of surfaced through various high stakes players talking about it with each other. And before we agreed to do this, I did a little background check on the university, and Professor Sanho was running it. And this is legit. Like, these guys had the bot that won the ACPC, and I'm sure no one knows what that is, so I will explain. It's the bot competition that they have every year where the top bots kind of battle it out, kind of Robot War style. So, a battle bots, what's it called? Anyway, so basically they all fight it out, and the bot here, last year's version was called Tartanian 7. It's won, I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years. I'm actually not sure how many years in a row it has won, but they've sort of established themselves as like the bot, like basically the top bot. It was created by the CMU, CS department. I'm not exactly sure what area of the department, but basically, this university is like known for these kinds of things. But I guess like the most famous one being and not many people know this, but the CMU actually was behind Deep Blue.
Oh,
so in like the Kasparov, in the Kasparov Deep Blue match, they were actually the same people. Now, it eventually got bought out by IBM, I think, and I think the team changed slightly, or I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but its roots were here in Pittsburgh at CMU.
Yeah, that's
and then the Jeopardy bot as well is the same situation. I think that also began here.
Yeah. No.
So they have a long history of successful bots beating people. So I didn't really question the legitimacy, and it was kind of just more about hammering out the terms to make this be able to happen to everybody.
Well, you mentioned that's a hell of a pedigree. The people who have done 2 of the most famous AI experiments, Deep Blue and Jeopardy, and of course, both of those bots have defeated the humans. So I'm actually glad they picked some really tough no limit hold'em individuals like yourself. Now, you guys are elite no limit hold'em big online players, but you're not necessarily the best known as like to the mainstream, like a Phil Hellmuth or a Daniel Negreanu or something like that. But of course, we're really glad to see, of course, as people who want the humans to win, that it is elite no limit players.
We don't want Hellmuth playing this thing.
Yeah, exactly. That it is elite no limit players. So I thought it was interesting that they did choose some online specialists.
So I come on the podcast, and you're going to tell me I'm not as famous as Danny Negreanu? Is that how it's going to be?
You're going to hang up, yeah.
Yeah, basically, it was really important to them that they actually got people that were really good at poker, or the best at this. Yeah, I know, right? The best at this sort of kind of poker anyway. Like, I'm sure that some of the guys Phil Hellmuth and Danny Negreanu are going to be good in a full ring live environment where they can talk at you in hands and do little bets that make you do stuff and know who that guy in the cap always that's a certain size and it means that he's bluffing or whatever. But they really wanted to pick people that specialize in the field because these guys are serious business. I got down here and they are really trying to win this, So they wanted to pick people that I think that they were kind of happy that they got me to do this because it gives them more credibility as far as I'm a little bit more established than let's just say the rest of the contestants.
Sure.
But they really wanted to test this out versus the top competition. And it's kind of a win-win for them because if they test out the bot and it loses, they can at least say that they fought versus the best players, and it's kind of where the state of botting is at. But if they win, it's they can almost just proclaim them being the best, right? So it was the main goal for them. I think wasn't to just try and make this as publicized as possible. I think the goal was to pick elite level players to test where the bot is at relative to the top in the field.
What when it went into your decision, Doug, to go ahead and play this? Obviously, your decision is going to be based on a lot of things: your EV, your future EV, is this good for the poker community? Give us an idea of what you went through deciding to play it.
Yeah, there was a few things that went into my decision for that. The first reason that I decided to do this was I really wanted to see where bots were currently at. In the high stakes, especially the nosebleed poker industry, there's a lot of paranoia. There's a lot of players that are very worried about bots, or maybe even they have some basic bots or basic programs, or there are people that don't want to play each other because they're scared of what if I'm playing a computer, right? If you're playing at high stakes and you're playing versus a computer that you can't possibly beat, that's not a super fun way to lose a fourth or a fifth of all of your money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of paranoia there, but it's also sort of rightfully so. And the main reason I wanted to come here, I wanted to see where it was at. I wanted to see the kinds of things it was doing. I wanted to see the kinds of things I could look for in my own play if I played someone that's weird. But I also wanted to know if I should be worried with that type of thing happening in my own games, because that's going to be really important, especially in the future. Maybe not this year, but next year, the year after. It's going to be important to know how we stack up versus that type of technology, and then be able to make more accurate decisions in the future.
Yeah, you raise a really
also, they are. Oh, sorry, I have to cut you off. But they are compensating us as well with an appearance fee, and it's a fun event. You get to play and be on stream and grind your life away for 8 hours a day. So, how can you say no?
Yeah, you raise a really good point that people are naturally fearful of bots. Now, you guys are up. Last I looked, about $200,000. So it seems like the good guys are winning this one. But most of the people listening to this show, and definitely the people hosting this show, aren't at the skill level of a Doug Polk when it comes to No Limit. How do you think this heads up bot would do if it were playing not against the best players in the world? What if it were playing just kind of a 1-2 heads up No Limit online? Would those players have anything to fear from this level of bot?
Right. One of my friends made said something that was fairly true. He said on the first day, if this bot's at the table, sorry, I'm actually messing up. He said you would not want this bot at your table. But he said it's because the bot tanks for 30 seconds on every river, so it just takes forever to play in. But they eventually sped it up, and now it's playing pretty good. As far as the bot playing casual players, it's kind of the bot will beat casual players, at least the current one, but you would actually much rather play this than a human, a top human, I think. Because even, let's just say that, by the way, it's pronounced Claudico. Claudico.
Okay.
So if it beats us, let's just say it beats us by 200K or something. That means that it's playing a more theoretically optimal style. But a good human player is more likely to be in tune with the nuances of how recreational players play and tailor their strategy to be a lot more deadly. Like, regardless of this challenge, and hopefully we win, and certainly so far as we will, but I think I would have a much bigger edge over the random 1-2 guy than this bot would. So, I don't think it's really time to be scared yet. The day will come, and PokerStars and Full Tilt and Party Poker and all the sites are going to have to just get really aggressive on trying to detect bots and not let them play by banning accounts and confiscating money and whatever. But I don't think that we really should be too afraid of bots at the current point.
How much different, Doug, is it playing this computer than playing a human, given that humans are always, and I don't really know exactly how the bot works. Maybe you can fill me in on that. But is the flow different? Does it adjust slower, or does it stick to certain things? I mean, it seems like it would be something where you would go and find a weakness and just keep plugging on that weakness because it can't adjust ever. It's a computer. A human would go, oh, he keeps doing that and it's screwing with me. I better stop.
Right. That's a good point. Computers have the ability to adjust in the same way that humans can adjust their strategy. It just has to be done differently, right? And I think a good example of this is, let's just say that you're playing heads up versus somebody. And generally speaking, for humans, there are certain hands that are deemed to be acceptable to bluff and ones that aren't, right? So, for example, if you have a flush draw and you bet 2 times on the river, you decide to bet again even though you missed, and the other person calls, and they see that you have a flush draw that missed, they're not going to be like, can you believe that? You bet a flush draw 3 times. That's appropriate, right? But one of the things that this bot does is, when it bluffs, this thing bluffs. I'm talking no equity, just running it. So kind of take that back to a human strategy. If I'm playing with somebody and it just goes, they just go for it. Let's say I'm playing a person and they just decide, this hand, whatever happens, I'm winning this pot. And they just jam the river and I call. And he shows a hand that never had anything, he just came out of the woodwork and just was this is my time, I got this one. Then in the future, when I'm playing with that guy, I'm always going to remember that hand where he just came out of the woodwork and just went for 3 with just nothing. Maybe he won't do that all the time. I'm not going to say that now I know in that same spot he's going to bluff me. But what I can say is that he's capable of making those decisions, right? So there are certain elements like that a human can infer, whereas for a computer, it's going to see that instance where it bet there, and maybe it'll be able to analyze how often it has bluffs and how often it has value, but it can't look at it well, if it bluffs Queen 6 there, then it's definitely bluffing Queen 7, and it's definitely bluffing Queen 8. It can't make decisions like that. So a lot of the human edge does come from us picking strategies that do well versus what we're facing against, what we're up against. And we're trying to take advantage of that. Our strategy has changed a bunch over the past few days, and we're doing some things to counter the bot that we wouldn't really do versus normal players. For example, no high stakes players in heads up limping on the buttons. That's just not really done. And we're going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here, because the reason that the name of the bot is Claudico is because that word is Latin for I limp.
That's amazing. That's great.
So the bot limps a lot, which in my experience, playing with players that limp, which is funny because it's so rare yet. It seems like every time I do a major challenge, my opponent is limping in. The same thing happened with Ben Solsky. It's limping in. So we're coming up with counters. We're coming up with strategies. We're having to devote some serious effort here to figure out what we're going to do when we haven't even really played versus this style before at all. So it's interesting trying to figure out what the leaks could be, and then trying to hammer away at them when we get the appropriate situations.
Well, that's interesting about the bluff that you've noticed, given that it doesn't really, it sounds like it doesn't turn hands into bluff as like humans tend to do, rather than it starts with a bluff. It starts the hand thinking, okay, I'm going to barrel here 3 streets, my hand is irrelevant or whatever, if I have equity or not. Whereas humans, like you said, have flush draws and they barrel because they've turned it into a bluff, or, turn second pair into bluff, whatever. You look at that and you go, well, there's a long way to go, really, with programming if that's the case.
Well, maybe. I think it's sort of an error just to assume that, like, they're wrong, right? I'm not, like, when I was coming up in poker, I made a conscious effort to try and be very open-minded to the strategies that my opponents employed, because sometimes there are certain elements that you can put into your own game, or you might play with someone that's very good, but they make mistakes in some spots. I'm sure I make mistakes all the time. Like, there's until poker is solved, there will be things that are good and bad about how people play. So, like, assuming that because the bot is doing this with weird hands makes it bad is not necessarily correct. What may or may not make it bad is the frequency it does both and in what ratio, and then how that applies over the course of the entire challenge. It will still mix in, like, going pretty, like, crazy with flush draws, but, like, that's not a prerequisite for, like, poker players online. Like, you know what I think it really boils down to? I'll tell you how it's going down here in Pittsburgh. This spot is going all in all the time, all over the place. So, like, the top's like 700, the bot just makes it 19,500 to go. All right, so we're,
have you hero called it yet?
Have you hero called the 17?
That's the obvious. Have you called getting 1.01 to 1 yet?
I mean, we've been doing our fair share of hero calling and catching ridiculous bluffs and getting stacked. So, like, shots are being fired down here in Pittsburgh.
It's like Spirit Rock 205. Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yeah, it's something else, man. Like, and I was actually talking about this on the stream on my channel earlier, but there's something very human about, like, going back to a $700 example. Humans don't want to risk $20,000 to win $700.
Right.
Like, that's just not a very human thing. Because it's like, oh, so I only have to risk $20K to win the $700? That sounds like a great deal. Here's nothing at all. I'm sure go all in. Like, that's just not a human emotion, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna risk a lot of money like that. We want to have either some way of winning, like we can get there, which is why we really like draws, or you want to pick up a good-sized pot. Like, if the pot's 20K or 10K and you go on for 20K or 15K, it's all reasonable, right? Like, no one's going to be like, well, you risked 15 to win 20? Like, what are you thinking? But if you jam 20 to win 700, there's going to be, like, someone, like, nearby. It's like, that just ain't right. Like, it's just not the correct way to do things. So I think human emotion plays a large role in not using those strategies, because it's tough, man. Like, there's some spots where, like, you just get into, like, a really, really difficult spot. And, like, you would never have to worry about facing that versus a human player. Now, sometimes those spots, there's a mix of, like, how I feel about it. Like, sometimes it does it in a spot, and I'm like, wow, this is really smart. This makes a lot of sense. And then sometimes it's a spot where I'm, like, really kind of unsure. Like, I would have to see the way that the bot is deciding what hands. And then sometimes it's just real bad. Like, there was this one hand where it went all in with this was going to sound like a joke. It went all in with Queen 2 on Ace, King 2, King Ace.
Wow.
So like, the pot is, like, real small, and one of the contestants, Bjorn, he bets the river, and the bot just ships it in.
What
for, like, 20K to win, like, a small.
What does Bjorn have?
Bjorn just had an ace. He just had an ace and called, and the bot had queen, and just had Queen 2. So, when stuff like that happens, you're like, oh my god, this bot's so low. But then it's just putting you in all these spots constantly, and then you're like, there's definitely some sessions, like the last session that we just had, we lost 100K, or maybe even 120 or 130K, and we were up like 330 to start the day. And it was just like, Dong was next to me, right? And it was just one hand after another hand after another hand. And, like, he looks up and he's like, you just went all in again. And, like, every time Dong had, like, a pretty good hand, right? But is it like a 20,000 kind of hand, or is it like a 3,000 or 4,000 kind of hand? you don't get to choose because the bot's choosing for you. So
yeah,
it's really tough sometimes, and like having to try and battle that kind of counter, or trying to counter that kind of strategy, you have to sort of disassociate, like online in a lot of spots you can make some folds just because, like, okay, he's risking 20K in a small pot, and like I haven't seen this guy before, I don't know what he's doing, so I'm just gonna let him have it.
Now,
unless I have like the top couple of hands. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. So yeah? I just wanted to ask you, because you're sitting next to the developer, and I've been watching a bit on Twitch, and it doesn't seem like he really, I mean, obviously he's a computer guy. He probably hasn't, been in the poker community too much. He doesn't have an idea of all the different terms, the poker terminology. Some of the stuff you were talking to him, he didn't quite understand. But is he taking the whole thing really personally, and if he's sitting there, is it sort of weird to play his bot while he's sitting there?
I'm trying to just take a very, like, whether we win or lose, like, I'm happy to be here attitude, because, like, there's a chance that when we got here we just got mauled, which would be, like, I could see how that would be embarrassing for some people to get here and just, like, have no chance. And also, like, we got here and we didn't really log the gate. So, again, like, I don't want to get too happy that we're doing it so well. I mean, obviously you're happy when you win, but until, like, the last hand is dealt, we're not gonna start celebrating. So, we're taking it seriously. As far as, like, me and the professor, we have definitely had the most airtime interaction, because I think in some ways I'm sort of representing the human team, and he's obviously representing the computer team. So we've had a lot of conversations. It's definitely an interesting experience for them, I imagine, because we're used to, like, firing up a session and, like, being down 40K, except that 40K isn't play chips, it's real money. So if anything, the stakes are lower, right? Because that just isn't real money. But we really are taking it seriously because we want to win, and they're taking it seriously because this is like what they've been up to for the last few years. In fact, I think they've been working on this project. I don't know to what degree, but I've heard numbers like 10 and 15 years being thrown around. So that's a long time. And I'm sure for them, it's got to be difficult because, it wins or loses. It's hard to know exactly what that means. When they see, he was actually saying that, so there was some hand where Bjorn, I don't know the action, but there was a lot of betting going on, okay? So, like, it wasn't like just, like, a small pot. It was like raise, re-raise, pre, call, bet, raise, call, lead, bet, whatever. And then, like, so it gets to the river, and the bot bets the river, and Bjorn goes all in. And the bot calls with queen high.
What?
So, like, a bold move. Bold move for sure. And Bjorn had it straight. And he kept making a joke, like, that hand's been giving me nightmares all week.
Yeah, I guess it
because
did.
Like, because they don't really know exactly, like, poker stuff. Like, these are really smart people. Like, they know programming, they know what they're doing. Their record speaks for themselves. So basically, like, I think that they don't, like, not knowing exactly how poker works changes things for them a little bit. Like, yeah, if you're talking on the stream, sometimes I use a term, I talk about a hand, and, two of us, Dr. Sandholm, he won't know exactly what's going on, right? It'll be like, he'll see, like, I have, like, a good top pair. He's like, oh, that's a nice hand, and then the bot will go all in. He's like, oh! And I'm like, dude, I have one pair facing, like, a 19K shove into 700. Like, like, he acts like I'm about to, like, win a stack whenever that happens, and I just have to be like, I don't even know who to call this. Like, so, yeah, I think they're sweating it. I'm sure every session they have that's good, they're happy, and every session they lose, it's pretty rough for them. But everyone's giving it their best, and I'm just trying to have, like, a positive attitude, kind of no matter what the result is.
And then you told him it was a 4 or 5 out of 10 on the ability scale, and it did kind of break his heart a little bit that it was only that low.
Like, I disliked that whole line of questioning because the question was worded in a way where, like, it would skew what an answer seems like what it is. So, for example, when I said it was a 4 or 5, the question that was asked was, Doug, if you had to compare, it was a specific question. It said, Doug, if you had to compare this bot to the average opponent that you play where would you rate it? So like, we're not talking about like, I'd say of all players it's a 4 or 5. We're talking about the people that play me, right?
Right.
So I said I think you would give it like a 4 or 5. Like of all the people I play, there are certainly some I would rather play the bot instead of them, and then there's certainly people I'd rather play than the bot. So, you know, I think that was a pretty fair thing to say. It was kind of worded tough though, because the scale of 1 to 10 there is like, you know, in comparison to the population of players, it's basically like from 9.4 to like 9.9, right?
Yeah, I think there's probably a misunderstanding of among the general public that elite poker pros end up playing against other elite poker pros like a disproportionately high percentage of the time.
Yeah, that might be the problem. In fact, I didn't even think about that until you just said it right now. So that actually does make some sense. Like maybe they think that I play like a wide range of people and I'm putting in the middle of them. If they think that, then I guess they haven't been online in a while. But you know, maybe they think that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bot. Sorry, you can go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so we've talked a lot kind of, you know, about the, you know, possible flaws or perceived flaws and, you know, kind of weird stuff that it does. And it does see it in, like, at this point, at least, that the best humans are still a best favorite, are still a significant favorite against the best robots. If somebody were to offer you a prop bet and say, you know, like, let's say you have to sign a contract and play a freeze out against the new and improved version of this bot, would you be willing to play that for, you know, some six-figure some 3 years from now, given that Moore's law probably indicates the computer's going to be a lot stronger than now, or would you be willing to make a bet of that nature?
So that's an interesting question, and there's a lot of factors at play there, so it's kind of hard to say that for sure. I guess the answer is no because of those factors. But the first factor that I want to bring up is that my understanding after talking with the team here is that no limit is going to be very difficult to solve. They keep saying some number, it's like tens of a something exponential something or other with like some math terms, like possibilities in no limit hold'em. And basically it's going to be not impossible, but extremely difficult to fully solve, you know, in the next however long, like, you know, very long time period. So I don't think that the way that this works is in 3 years, like it will be solved so you can't play. Yeah. I also think that in the scenario where, let's just say that it can beat me, I do believe it will be hard for it to crush me just because I will be able to make adjustments that are good enough to lose, you know, at least a smaller amount. The problem is that we don't actually know the rate of development. A year ago, it won the ACPC I talked about earlier, and I looked at the hands from in that, and we were pretty excited to play it at first because we were like, all right, we got this for sure. But it's a different version of the bot, and it's playing much better, right? So if in 1 year they can make some substantial improvements, 3 years is a super long time in the tech world. So I would say no, I would not be willing to do that. But, you know, I'm also not too afraid of the future.
Well, that had to be reassuring, Doug, when they talk about just how difficult no limit hold'em. This is just head up no limit hold'em is to solve. I mean, in a community like you said earlier, where everybody's paranoid about bots, that had to make you feel better.
How do you feel better about the state of where it's at currently?
Yeah. The fact that, you know, you're not running up against bots, or not you specifically, because if a bot came along right now and it was nefarious, it wouldn't be going after you. It would be going after, you know, smaller stakes. But given what they said, and the other thing that I noticed was, and I don't know if this really has anything to do with anything, but it was taking forever on the river to compute what to do and what decision to make. And when I think about the computing power that these people have access to, for the fact that it takes 3 minutes or whatever it was taking on the river, just because, and it wasn't trying to timing tell or anything, it was actually trying to process a decision. Given that, that's got to be a pretty good thing too.
Yeah, both those things are positive things for sure. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, that the average player should really not be concerned. The river changing thing was really bad on day one, but since then it's actually gotten a lot better, and the times are more reasonable. Now, to my understanding, it's each day it is playing more and more close to, I guess, a style that's a little more suited to each player. They haven't really expanded on what they mean by that, and we've noticed some small fluctuations in its strategy as far as what its frequencies are, but we don't really know to what extent it's trying to make these changes. So it's also hard to say, like, it's hard to say that we are, how big of a favorite we are at this point. Like, it seems like each day that we win, we're like, oh, we got this, like, this is good, and then, like, I think day 2 we lost a bunch, and we're like, oh man, this thing is like too good, like what's going on, we're losing everything. And then last night we won a ton, so human emotion may be one of our weaknesses, but until we're like, let's just say 5 days in, like, what if the bot is playing way better on day 9 or day 10 or day 11, right? Then it could be that we're not favorites there anymore, and we just have a lead that we're trying to hold on to. So we're not really going to know, I think, until, let's just say, days 9 or 10. I thought this was a really important day for the computer because we were up like 330 going in. And it started to seem like, given some of the adjustments that we made in the lead that we built, that if we had a big day today, it was going to be kind of like we're running away with it. But that we came out of the gate and just like lost a ton. So, it's going to be an interesting sweat. And I think I'm actually not totally sure that we're going to win, right? So I'm excited for the rest of the challenge. I think it's going to be a good watch regardless.
So what do you think the bot does well? We talked about what some of its weaknesses, but is there some stuff that surprised you about what it does, and what do you think it does really well?
So the bot plays really well on the river. My understanding is that the river has like a different algorithm or something. I'm not a tech guy. I don't know what to say, but I assume the reason it tanks on the river is because there's something different going on there. And it seems to play that street in particular especially well. So it's fearless, it bluffs a ton, it calls down really light, it's hard to get bluffs through. It's a difficult task to play river well versus someone like that. So I would say it plays that well. And then the limping strategy that it's using is actually pretty good. It's very well balanced across a lot of different holdings, and I don't know, it's like tough to play against. Like, we really haven't had to deal with getting limp raised a bunch before.
Nice. How many more days, Doug, are you going to be there battling the bot?
We are planning on being here until, I believe, May 8th is the final day.
Wow, that's a long
We get one day off, and I'm looking so much forward to May 3rd.
I bet that.
So, yeah, we get one day off, and we'll conclude then. But, yeah, it's like roughly a 2-week challenge.
There was one question I wanted to ask you from the thread, and that was from Clayton. He asked you, if Claudico sat down with you on PokerStars, how long do you think it would take you to realize it's a bot, if ever?
It would happen very quickly. I have a good example for recognizing things, like with the Joshua Tyler incident. I think we talked about that one of the times I was on. But when that account stopped me on PokerStars and I saw it was a random account, it only took me, like, let's just say 15 or 30 minutes to know that I was just getting directly cheated.
Right.
And while it would be harder to know that I'm just playing against someone that's better than me, like, it's not like I'm just like roped into playing and can't see what it's doing. It starts to make some of the same types of decisions that the bot does. These things are really unique and very specific. Like, for example, the bot likes to use a 10% river. If it check calls twice, it likes to just like bust out the 10% ball on the river a bunch. I don't know what frequency. I don't know with what range. I guess I could go through that if I wanted to tonight, but I just have so much other stuff to do. But basically, that's a very specific strategy. And calibrating that well, that's just so difficult.
No question. All right.
So I don't know. Like, I think between that and the various lines that it takes with like the same hands, which is really the most interesting thing about the bot is it seems like it needs to do everything sometimes, which sounds weird. But like, for example, pre-flop, if it limps in, its limp range is any hand that it would play. So its limp range is weighted between aces, king-9 suited, 5-4 off, anything you play, you name it, it's in there. It's just each hand is allocated a different weight. So it does, like, let's just say it limps in with 5-4, 40%, but it limps in with aces, 12. It's distributing all of its hands across that entire range, and it does that post-flop. So I've seen hands that actually got me pretty good here. There was a hand where I think it limped in or raised. I can't remember what happened pre-flop, but the important part is it bet the flop on 9-4-3, and I had a 9, right, so I called. And then the turn was a 2, and I checked, and it just min-bet. It just did min-bet out at me. So I was like, yeah, let's go pretty about 9, right? So I put in the raise. It calls. The river is another 9. I bet, and it raises. And I'm like, what? And I call, and I have 6-5. So in the turn, it just min-bet the nuts, call the raise.
Let you hang yourself.
Just in the trap.
Let you hang yourself.
Crazy.
Yeah, but then sometimes it checks that hand. Sometimes it pops that hand. Sometimes it 2x pops that hand. Sometimes it half pops that hand. And every single decision is weighted. It's all like they have a scale set up. They can see the percentages. Like it goes to each line or whatever. I don't know what they're doing back there, but every hand goes into every range. And, you know, sometimes it gets you. Like there, that worked out pretty well. And that was before I knew what was going on. And, like, now we're a little bit more careful about stuff like that. But, you know, it does that pre-flop. And then if it's on the river, like, that call with queen high versus an all-in, that was ridiculous. But it decided that, like, 0.0001% of the time that this hand needs to be in the calls for, like, whatever reason, right? So there's certain elements of the way that it plays that are very good because of how balanced it is. And then there are other elements where it seems like it tries to get needlessly tricky. So I don't know, man. It's definitely some interesting stuff down here.
Anything you're going to take away, do you think, and go, hey, I might use that when I'm playing somebody? I mean, that seems like the ranges are super wide, like in, you know, the ramifications of that, you can probably go, well, maybe I can sprinkle a little of that into my game.
Sorry, can you say that? I couldn't quite hear you.
Well, I'm just wondering when you run into really bizarre type plays like that you don't see normally, maybe you think, wow, you know, that's a good thing that I could sprinkle into my play when you go back away from the playing the bot and go back to playing against the best in the world again.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But I think what's funny about it is a lot of the stuff that it does, it's good versus itself because it's kind of like how anyone plays. We all play, like, sort of thinking the other person, things like us. But, like, for the computer program, like, if it never checks back the nuts on the turn or never min-bets the nuts, then it can get raised aggressively and it will never have the nuts, right? So when it's playing a $700 pot, it's worried about when it faces a $19,000 raise, which, like, probably never coming, right? It's probably never going to happen. But like, let's just say that it does. It needs to have 6-5 there sometimes to prevent that. So it's basically like taking these lines to protect against lines it would take, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
That is how computers learn against each other. It's,
I guess.
Yeah, iterative play.
Thanks so much, Doug. Appreciate it. I'll let you get back there to battling against that bot. And maybe
rescuing all of humanity.
Save humanity.
So
from
get
the Terminator.
Some rest. It sounds like you've got a lot of poker ahead of you.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks so much. We'll hopefully hook up with you when you're back in Vancouver, sir.
Yep, thanks for having me on, and I will do my best to represent humanity. And if you want to log on, check it out. It's on Twitch at twitch.tv, and I think it's just Doug Polk versus Claudico, or underscore on each side of verse. So you can log on and see me playing a fuck ton of poker.
If you want to get the address, it's go to NVG. It's in the Doug Polk Takes On a Computer thread. You can click on the link there and head on over to Twitch and watch the battle go down. Thanks, Doug. Good luck, sir.
All right, great. Thank you very much for having me on. See you later.
Big thanks to Mr. Doug Polk for joining us in the middle of his challenge. That was great of him to take some time out. He probably needed a rest from battling the bot for hours and hours and hours, but he took time to answer our dumb questions.
He's really doing a lot of media these days, too. We're not.
You would think.
Probably not the only people knocking on his door.
Yeah, exactly. So good. And like we said, hopefully he takes down the bot and saves us from Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back and deleting our poker clients from our...
Well, if it's Terminator 2, then he is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, right.
If he's Terminator 1, then, yeah. Well, it's
continuity.
Unclear. It's unclear.
Who's the guy who melts? You can't.
Yeah,
kill
I don't know the
Who's
actor's
that guy?
name, but that's the T-1000.
No, is that you or Ross? Or who's that? In
the guy who melts is clearly the professor at Carnegie.
Professor,
Mellon,
yes,
at
of course, the
Carnegie
melting
Mellon
guy.
University.
All right, let's get on to a little. We got a Rossco report to get to here.
How was your week in poker?
Love it.
All right, so this is exciting. We are going to follow along with this hand with the Twitch viewers right now.
Oh, they're going to watch at the same time. Good. So how did you played some 50 cent, $1 PL? No, 10, 25 cent PLO Zoom.
That's all I've been doing.
You've been zooming up a storm. Good to hear. You've got a hand here where you start, again, this is Zoom, you start in the small blind.
Yes.
You have the King, Queen of Hearts, Jack, Diamonds, 9 of Clubs. So you get the one suited, King, Queen, Jack, 9 in the small blind. There's a raise under the gun. You flatten the small blind for 75 cents, and the big blind folds. The flop comes King, Queen, 8. So you flop top 2. It goes check, check, which is a really weird board for him to check behind on.
Yeah. Obviously, I was going for the check raise.
You're going for check raise at the top 2. I don't love your hand, given against his raising range, that you're going to get a lot of. I don't know if I love a check raise there because you're not going to get a lot of action from hands you're dominating.
That's true.
So you're going to get called by hands that are flipping or have you crushed. So I'm not sure check raise is the best route. I don't know what I like most. It depends probably on the player and how he plays. What do you think, T?
Yeah, if you get check raise, you certainly don't want to be 3-bet.
No, you're check raise. You're in the small blind.
That's what I'm saying. If you do check raise and you get 3-bet,
you hate it.
Then you hate it, which is kind of an argument against it. So yeah, I'm kind of inclined towards the.
What do you like? Lead call or raise, or do you like check call?
Not folding. Yeah, well, I'll clearly play. Yeah, it's
I like
leading or check calling.
I like check call. I think
find the check call as well.
Yeah, and then see what pills off in the turn.
Fold like 70% of turns.
A lot of turns are bad, right? I mean, that's why you're check calling. You're keeping the pot small because there are a shit ton of bad turns. So anyway, so it goes. You check. It goes check on the flop.
9 of diamonds peels on the turn.
Turn is the 9 of diamonds, which is not a good card for you,
Gives
really.
You top 3 pair, but it also brings in the most obvious straight.
Brings in the straight that hits. You lead, you get raised, and you called. The river is the 6 of spades, bringing a flush, a front door flush. King, Queen, 8 was the flop with 2 spades. 9 of diamonds turns 6 spades on the river. Horrible card, clearly, because, although when he raises the turn, you have to take some spades out of his range, I guess. I don't know.
Also, the fact that he didn't bet the flop is more probably
you're taking more spades out
than the ace-high flush draw.
Yeah.
The ace-high flush draw is not a huge concern given that he didn't.
That he check back the flop, although people will check back nut draws because they don't want to
I guess, but usually if you don't have anything else. But I mean, pre-flop raiser, you would think like aces with the ace of spades is a possibility, or some kind of paired hand, like some sort of backup, if you have aces there.
So it goes, river goes check, you check, he bets, you call.
He bets the pot, notably.
He bets the pot,
so
and Ross calls.
I check.
What was your thought process there for calling that 6 of spades river? Why were you calling, I guess, is the question.
I was about to fold, and I thought it was a bluff. I did have a bit of history with this guy because he had been very aggressive and 3-betting me a lot. And the check back on the flop was suspicious, I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he could check back
not flush draw.
10 jack.
10 jack's clearly in his range of checking back the flop
now,
there.
But is 10 jack in his range of potting it on the river? No.
Exactly, yeah. So he has
So he's got ace 10-10. So he's got ace spades blocker. He's also got the 2 10s blocking the straight on the turn. So if I'm him, I bet the flop. Yeah, that's a pretty clear bet on the flop. I'm not quite sure why he checked it back, but I don't mind the play really either. From yourself, I don't like see on the turn he's got a lot of 10 jacks when you call the raise. Sure. I mean, I think that because he checks back the 10 jack on the flop a lot. Mm-hmm. So interesting spot though. I can see why you call because of the check back on the flop, and that makes a lot of sense to me. So I don't mind it either way, I guess.
He had all the blockers.
He had all the blockers, indeed. So the next hand, you are in the big blind, I want to say. Let me just load it up here.
Correct.
You're in the big blind in the 10-25. You have the Jack 9-8-7 clubs and hearts.
Very pretty hand.
Nice looking hand for a lot of draws. Button raises, you call flop. Queen 6-5.
Is it worth? I mean, I'm gonna. This is almost pretty enough for me to 3-bet. Really, I mean,
it's a good. Yeah, you need to throw this into your range.
Re-raising here is because we're gonna be raising with a lot of other stuff. I mean, double suited rundowns is
it's a pretty big one. Yeah,
I would 3-bet this hand.
Good point. I like that a lot. The flop as played comes Queen 6-5 2 clubs. So you remember you have the Jack 7-8-9 with Jack high clubs. So you've got wrap. Flush draw. It's a great flop for your hand. Clearly,
13 card wrap. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
13 card wrap and Jack high flush draw.
So you check. Guy bets the pot on the flop. You raise pot. He calls. The turn is a Jack, giving you bringing a spade draw. So now there's spades and club draw. You have second pair. Clearly, that's not worth too much. But you lead for almost the entire pot. He calls. The river comes a queen, so it pairs the top card. Queen,
not
Jack,
what we were
5-6.
Exactly.
Not the card. Although as played, he has a lot of sets in his range, I think. Mm-hmm. So although when it pairs the top card, then it's bothersome for like pocket fives, that kind of thing.
Right.
But you bomb on the river for 30, and he folds.
Yeah.
That's such a draw-heavy board, too, that, he's got to be thinking. Obviously, he probably didn't have much. He didn't have a queen, clearly, or he would have thought about calling, I think, when that
Well, you
when
don't
that
know. He
river
didn't
comes.
think about calling. There's no timestamps on these decisions. We don't know.
Right, but what I'm saying is he didn't call, I guess.
I mean, there are people here who would fold fives full. I mean,
yeah.
There's no question about that. I mean, we don't know.
That's a bad fold, six-handed, if you're fold.
I'm just saying,
especially with that board.
Yeah. Well, then
So
if that's the case, then does this even need to be a bluff? Because is the Jack almost enough showdown value as it is? Because what exactly you're saying? You're basically saying you can't bluff this guy off a queen, and you can't bluff this guy off a full house. Well, what exactly are you bluffing him off of then, other than like King Jack or Ace Jack?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you basically have this very, very minuscule distribution of hands that you could bluff him off of if you don't think he's capable of folding a queen.
Yeah. Interesting point.
I thought that I was. At this level, I find people are just going to try and get it in on a flop like that with any set. So I figured I repped more full houses than he did.
Yep.
Clearly, I think on the turn he's gonna, if he's got a set or something, he's raising you there when he flatted.
Right. A pretty good card for a set if you come off
great card
off on the turn.
Yeah. So interesting hand. Again, don't have a ton of problems with the way you played it at all.
Okay. I'm making improvements. I haven't gotten close to busting my roll this time around.
Oh, good.
We're getting one step closer to the 10K PLO at the World Series.
So there is one more hand that I didn't get to put in here. It is one of the most amazing hands of PLO I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
And
did you play it?
It'll take me a moment to find. So I think what I'll do is put it in the thread this week because I want people to see it.
Okay. Show it in the put it in the show thread is what you're going to do.
Okay.
Pokercast.2+2.com.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll put it along with these.
Indeed, sounds good. Some people are asking for a speeding ticket update. I have not had any tickets.
I haven't asked you since as long as you show up to the studio, I know that you're not here.
I would be arrested for kicking the police car if I got another ticket at this point, I think. So I didn't do that. I haven't.
So are you just driving 50 and a 50, 80 and an 80 all the time?
Driving the speed limit everywhere I go. It's frustrating as hell, and I hate it. But that's my life now. I also, I don't know if I mentioned this or not, I registered to fight all of them in court.
Yeah,
so
you did mention that on shows.
Yeah, I've done and when I do get my ultimate message about if I get my license suspended or not, I will bring the envelope in unopened and open it on the show.
Awesome!
For fun,
Awesome.
So my suspension will be read live on the air on Twitch.
Fantastic.
So
that would be brutal.
I won't be able to drive home, but somebody will give me a ride home, hopefully. Yeah, I'll do that. That is the update. We're going to get into some more stuff now. So let's get to some shout-outs and some mailbag. We'll do this in the end of segment 2. But first, let's do the password. Mix it up a little bit and put it in the second segment today.
I know what you're going to pick.
You got a guess?
It may or may not be CCCP vodka.
No, it's going to be Sergei Makarov. This is the Pokerstars Invitational for Pokercast listeners, our weekly tournament for everybody who does listen to the show. Pokerstars is generous enough to add $500 to a $1 buy-in tournament.
Huge value.
Overlay. Fantastic value. $1.10
plus
buy-in.
the $1 that I always get for signing up and never showing it, never playing.
No, you did show up.
I did show up, and I dusted it with like bottom 2 pair and 5-card PLO, which we all know is
not a good idea.
Hand.
You got bottom 2 pair, but you turned a flush draw. You were like a favorite on the turn by like 1%.
Nice. The Pokerstars Invitational for Pokercast listeners, $1.10 buy-in. This is in the private tab of the tournament's lobby, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, 8 GMT, 8 p.m. GMT on Sundays. Add it to your grind if you're on the Sunday grind, especially with Scoop coming up. We got a lot of people coming up to play, so throw it in there. Have some fun with it. We need a format, Rossco. What do you want for format this week?
Spin and go.
That would be great.
I would like to play for $1 million, please.
Let's do No Limit Hold'em 4-max. We haven't done that in a while. People enjoy the shorthanded. We enjoy the shorthanded much more than full.
It's better leg room. You know, I hate.
You got more. You can spread out at the table.
Tables.
Yeah,
I hate 9-handed online tables.
You can put strawberries and drinks on your virtual table.
Wrong side.
Wrong side. Okay.
That's 4-max.
It's going to be 4-max, and the password, of course, CCCP vodka.
Are those capital C's?
Does it matter? Is it case sensitive? I don't think it's case sensitive.
But no, all lowercase.
All lowercase.
All
CCCP vodka, all one word, all lowercase is the password to the Pokerstars Invitational.
The last like 5 times I've submitted it to Stars, they've done some sort of mistake. So.
You're blaming Stars. You're throwing them under the bus.
Wow.
Is what you're doing right there.
Way to kill our sponsor.
Fired. You're looking for a job next week now. We got no show. Way to go.
He's planning to win a Spin and Go.
I was just saying that it's not a big deal. We love Pokerstars.
We do. All right, so that's the tournament. People are going to be thrown off by where the password was this week.
So maybe even more overlay.
Yeah, it might be. Although all the Russians will be listening to the Alexander interview.
Somebody said they would like NL 4-max shootout.
Shootout?
So
you want to do a shootout? All right, let's do that. We're on the fly. We'll
do that.
Edit this sucker on the fly. 4-max, no limit hold'em shootout is the format for this
week. That makes it even.
It's kind of like winning a Spin and Go, right?
Yeah, you have to win like 3 or 4 Spin and Goes to win.
There you go.
Or to cash.
Forum shoutouts. This is shoutouts to people who come and post in the Where in the World Are You Listening to From thread. Love that each week, as we point out. It's fun to go and see where everybody's listening from. This week, hi, Adam, T, and Ross. I've been listening to the show since about number 150 from the beautiful central coast of California, 1,500 feet from the Pacific Ocean.
Not jealous.
Clearly, this guy is stinking rich. In the middle of nowhere. It's 220 miles to L.A. or San Francisco from here. That's not really the middle of nowhere. So he's like Big Sur.
Is that Big Sur? Close. Yeah, I don't know.
That area?
San Luis Obispo? I have no idea.
I have cousins there.
Sick brag, bro.
Well, San Luis Obispo.
That's nice area. Here's a strategy question I'd like to hear you address. No limit hold'em cash and tourneys. Should I just muck queen whenever it's dealt to me? I've lost more equity holding dam queens than any other starting hand, including being knocked out of 3 of the 6 World Series of Poker Bracelets events that I played. Played all in pre-flop, lost to 6s, et cetera, et cetera. Martin Stasko was one of the guys that put a beat on him with the queens. Keep up good work and curse all you want. Cheers. Yikanti is should you muck queens every time? Yes, clearly. I think that's.
No, I've folded queens twice in my life, and I think I've been right.
Okay, but how many times have you thought I should fold, called, and lost? I've done that half a dozen times. I've thought,
sure, but it's so hard to correctly fold queens. I mean, it's you have to be damn sure there. It can't even be really a heads up pot. It has to be a multi-way pot. If it's a heads up pot and the money's deep, at some point you're just going to flat and not put in that nth bet. But no, I mean, queens is an extremely profitable hand in no limit hold'em, especially I would say tournaments, because people are getting it in much worse than that. Obviously, Yeah, it sucks. It is going to be a hand. Queens, jacks, ace, kings these are hands that you're going to frequently bust with from tournaments, simply because they don't have blockers against aces and kings. So that's a big thing. They have blockers against ace king, and then ace king can get there a lot of the times. So yeah, I mean, there's no way. I mean, queens. You don't always have to play it for your stack. Certainly, you shouldn't if the money is very deep. But I would say more often than not, playing queens for your stack is probably correct.
How many? Yeah, for how many? Up to how many big blinds?
Yeah, I'm certainly going to lose money.
Yeah. I mean, I think generally like 6 betting, I guess, is about the line where you draw. I mean,
so 100 big blinds, you should just get in.
I mean, if it's 9-handed and under the gun raises, and then no. But I mean, if you're talking about if you're talking about 100 big blinds, like button versus big blind, I'm certainly going to get in most of the time, especially against some, except unless somebody's really nitty or something like that. No.
Yeah. All right. I know. Yeah, I hate playing queens. It's one of those things where there's several times I've called and know I shouldn't have been calling at the time and been up against the odds.
I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I would say that. I mean, obviously, yeah, I've been busted holding queens and into aces and kings a lot of times, but I've also done the other thing and folded queens incorrectly, and that certainly feels terrible.
It does. Soccer for Life 3, Justin, shout out to him for coming and posting in the thread. The other one another one is the screen name Vast Deference.
Wow.
Yeah,
I saw that. That one got by the moderators, I guess. I mean, it's an anatomical body
part of your body, or part of male body. Yeah. From Wellington, New Zealand. As one of your furthest away listeners, I want to confirm that Kiwis are big on both titties and bacon, probably in that order too. Would like to be able to purchase a T-shirt. That's Vast Reference from Wellington, New Zealand.
I've been to Wellington, New Zealand.
I haven't been to Wellington. I've been to Auckland,
okay,
which was awesome.
Yeah,
I absolutely love New Zealand.
Yeah, Kiwis are cool.
Kiwis are great. The country is beautiful, a lot like Canada, and expensive. I mean, it's not a cheap place to go, but people are super friendly. Had a great time there.
You didn't read Soccer for Life?
I gave him a shout out.
Oh,
thanks for the.
Would you like to host the show?
Yeah. No, when you do to people who post in this thread, I love. First of all, thanks for everybody who does it. But give us something to throw out there. Soccer for Life basically just said hi.
I think you did fine, Adam.
It was nice. Yeah. All right. So next one. Not sure how far Comox, BC, Canada is from Kells. Sorry, Rossco.
So I checked into this. There's a website. I can't remember the name of the website.
But the name is How Far Is It to Kells?
It's something like it's. You can put in 2 cities, and it tells you how many the air distance between the two.
Yeah.
So I tried to do this for Comox, BC, which I know exists, and Kells, which I'm pretty sure exists.
I think there's a few Kells though. That's the problem.
No, the database didn't have any Kells in Ireland. So I looked up the Wikipedia for Kells, and that exists.
It's spelled differently?
No. It exists, but it's just not in the database for this thing.
Because there's 12 people in the city.
So I had to go to the Wikipedia, and I found that Kells is is a town that's in County Meath, Ireland. So I put in County Meath, still nothing. And then I continued reading it and said that it is 40 miles from Dublin. So I just kind of added the distance between Vancouver and Dublin as subtracted 40 miles, and I got 4,444. So that is how many miles Comox BC
4444. Nice.
From, I can't imagine Vancouver's too much farther than that. So.
It continues. I'm also not sure how many 2+2 posts I have, but you, and this is his quoting, you last visited 03/24/2011.
Wow.
So
First
he hadn't been around
4 years.
For 4 years. That's Cotty. Keep up the good work, fellas. Appreciate that. B-Boy811. Haven't missed an episode from Las Vegas, Nevada. Met Adam last year at the 2+2 party at the South Point. Recording engineer turned web developer. Is a real nice guy. Talked to him for a while. He's got a recorder, or had a recording studio. It sounds like he's on to web developing now, but he, if we were ever going to do the show from Las Vegas and needed a studio, he was there for us.
Cool.
Speaking of that, though, the party, I don't think there's a party for the World Series of Poker this year. 2+2 party.
Sad pandas.
Which is sad, the first year in several years. I could be wrong. At least I haven't seen a thread about it, or I haven't talked to anybody, but my understanding is I haven't seen any kind of plans for a party this year, 2+2. All right, a comment. This what did you got? What do you got here?
That was in the other thread. That's in the
send comments.
The send comments.
Sure.
Thread. So this is from Trumpet is Awesome, and he is a huge fan and started listening to a few months ago. Hasn't missed an episode since. No coincidence. That's when I started, right? And Ross. For that. Something that would be really nice would be show notes with timestamps for the podcast. You guys cover a lot of topics. It'd be great if I knew which topics were being covered with and when. Other poker podcasts I listen to regularly, Thinking Poker does this, and it's a nice feature. I agree. It's always a nice thing to have. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's always really nice when you have the show notes and you have like little things. However, Ross already kind of spends a lot of time putting all of this stuff together after the show. I certainly wouldn't want to add it to this plate. So I think at this point it would probably need to be like a fan or a
if a listener wanted to do it for us, I think it's a lot faster for us.
And you wanted to email.
What I can do, I think, fairly easily is give timestamps for each segment.
Yeah. Certainly a segment, and then that would give you a general idea. If there's a feature interview, be able to go that the feature interview is at 55 minutes, or the Pokerstars segment is at an hour and 30. That kind of thing would be a general idea. But of course, if somebody wants to do this and kind of make the listener experience a bit better for everybody else, then of course we would love to communicate with you in that, and we could put it in the show thread, or whatever it would be. But
I will say I don't think we want the Pokerstars password for the invitation.
Absolutely not. That's going to be one of those things that always is an Easter egg in there, and you got to hunt for it a little bit. And so thanks to that suggestion for Trumpet is Awesome, who also goes by the name of Zach, and thank you for posting in the comments thread.
Listener email. We only have one email to read out this week. Hi, Adam. It's Ernest Evans. Great news. Starting day 2 with only 10 big blinds and being down to 6 big blinds several times, I finished in 62nd place in the money on day 3. $12K payday. Thanks for the karma. This is the guy who was giving us the 1% free roll, and looks like we cashed for $120. Let me know.
That is some karma.
This was at the Hard Rock Poker Open, of course, the Seminole Poker Open. It says, let me know how to get the 120, or we can double down on my next event and go for 2%.
I know what I'm doing.
Your choice.
I know.
Are we gambling?
I'm gambling.
Roscoe, you got $40 here. Do you want the 40 or do you want to gamble?
Gamble, I guess.
Gamble.
Eventually, this guy's going to win the one drop. That's how it's going to go. Like
that would be great.
He's gonna win whatever the thing is, and then he's going to be rich and win the one drop, and then we're all just going to have like $150,000 out of this nonsense.
Thanks, Ernest. Really appreciate the free roll and the $120. We will double down and take 2% of you in the next one. Right. When I did read his email last week, I mentioned he had a tagline, ME/CFS, and he explained that it's a disease of the immune system. Over 25 years, he's been suffering with this disease, and there was no proof. It was an actual condition. In October of 2014, there was an article published by this Stanford doctor who finally proved that it was real, and I'm glad that got him a little bit more understanding on exactly what's going on with his condition. So that's good, too. All right, so that's going to bring to an end segment 2. We're going to come back. We're going to have Mr. Steve Day. We're also going to be visited by PokerStars' newest millionaire from Moscow. His name is Alexander. He's going to join us after the break. You're listening to the 2+2 Pokercast presented by the PokerStars VIP Club. More right after this.
This week on the Crush Live PLO podcast hosted by Don Asa Ding.
He ended up having the flop straight, so he had a 6-6-5-4. So I just didn't really expect him to have that because I didn't think he would be raising from out of position pre-flop with no fold equity. I guess it's not crazy because his raise pre-flop, he's not expecting to get a limp raise, so there's still a lot. In a single raise pot, there's still a lot of post-flop play left, so it is pretty deceptive.
Check out Asa's Crush Live PLO podcasts and his live PLO videos only on crushlivepoker.com.
Hey, poker fans, don't forget about the 2plus2.com digital magazine. Each month, a wide array of poker professionals and media write fascinating articles about the game you love. Want to learn about big blind versus small blind hand ranges? How about optimal Jeopardy daily double strategy? Topics like those and many others are covered every month. Head on over to 2plus2.com to see what the magazine has to offer this month.
6 max zoom 500, 230 big blinds deep. MP opens to 10 and I 3-bet 36 on the button with kings. He 4-bets small to 63 and I 5-bet 143 and flat his $222 6-bet. Pot is 450 with 1,000 behind. He bets 555 on the 10-7-3 rainbow flop. And I think, too bad I'm not capable of folding in this spot as I shove, only to see him turn over ace-10 after calling. I hold for 500 big blind pot.
Team Pro Online's Mikhail Inasai Shalamov is a Supernova Elite VIP. This is the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club.
Back to the 2+2 Pokercast, presented by the Pokerstars VIP Club. We've got some more in case you missed it we're going to get to, and then we are going to go out to the Isle of Man, talk to Mr. Steve Day. But let's get back to some of the things that we haven't got to yet. In case you missed it, Daniel Negreanu wrote a blog on young people getting into the world of poker, becoming professional poker players. He said he was at a conference. This is what started his idea to write this blog. He was at a conference, and somebody who deals with teenage problem gambling asked him a question that he gets a lot of people coming in that have problems and saying they want to be professional poker players, and how should he deal with that, which I thought was a great question to ask Daniel.
Because in some sense, one man's professional gambler is another man's wannabe professional poker player.
For sure. Gamblers. And when people, problem gamblers, look to poker as something they want to do, who do they look at? They look at Daniel Negreanu.
Yeah. And in some sense, it could be a rationalization for just sort of pathological behavior. I mean, if you look at, the Gamblers Anonymous website, which I've done, and they ask you, the 20 questions.
I hit most of them.
I'm 17 out of 20, and they say, if you answered 5 or more, then you might have a problem gambling. I'm like, well, I guess I have a problem gambling.
I've been to Anonymous Gamblers Association. It is definitely a Gamblers Association. I've been to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. My girlfriend, actually, I think I've told the story. She forced me to go.
Really?
When I first started playing poker. Well, before I started playing for a living.
You had an edge at blackjack.
I thought I had an edge at blackjack.
Oh, so you actually kind of were.
Oh, for sure it was. Yeah, I have roots in it and fight it still. I mean, sports betting and all kinds of stuff.
A little baccarat.
But and baccarat. I mean, hopefully I have a handle on it. But yeah, at the time, I didn't. I was I'd get my paycheck from my job, and I'd go down and I can double this playing blackjack, right? So that was a long time ago before I started playing.
I did not know that. I've always been the super sort of disciplined sort of gambler. I mean, I have a little bit of DJ in me, but I always know where to draw the line. But even I'll tick all the boxes on that Gamblers Anonymous survey because I mean, it's just the way they set up those questions.
It's to get you in.
Have you ever missed time off of work to gamble? I'm like, well, if gambling is your job, then I guess I guess I kind of quit my job to do more gambling, to be perfectly honest about it.
I've been pretty obsessive compulsive in other areas like alcohol and drugs, but I've never done anything totally retarded
in gambling.
In gambling,
except 25-cent, 50-cent Zoom.
Yeah, but I've never.
I'm teasing.
I'm not going to say it's totally retarded.
No,
5-10.
I'm joking.
Yeah. If I jumped into 5-10, I've never. Hopefully, this never happens. Knock on wood. But I've never crippled myself or bet more than I could afford to lose.
That's why we kept you out of the sports betting. You're 1 for 1 lifetime, thanks to Mr. Allen Boston. But back to the issue with Daniel. He wrote a blog about it and talking about some of the things that this guy could do while talking to people that think playing being a professional poker player is the way to go.
I thought it was a well-written blog.
It was really well written. Yeah, I think Daniel was right on almost every. I didn't have an issue with really anything he said. Making it, the harsh reality. And poker is completely different now than when you and I started.
Right.
You could go out and we were making so much money. We were playing against such bad players.
Right.
It was like a tap. You didn't have to study. You didn't have to.
Well, we
work
got
on
into
your
it
game.
at the right time, right?
Yeah.
So by the time the poker boom hit around the mid 2000s, we'd already had that
good
poker
players,
experience under our belt, and so just being ahead of the curve like that. But yeah, obviously now if you're like 19 years old or something like that, deciding on a career path, that's certainly not the most recommended one. You have to love the game. You have to absolutely love studying to be willing to make it at that level.
Yeah, and the commitment it takes now is completely different than it took before. Yeah. Like I was saying, you could just roll up and get out of bed and go play poker and just be that much. The skill gap was so large.
Right.
Whereas now, and Daniel spent time in his blog pointing out that you need to figure out exactly what your game is, what your win rate is, how that's going to work, how many hours you're going to play, what your goal is, to how much time you need to study and work on your game. And that brings it home to a lot of people because all they see is Daniel laughing his head off, winning $1 million in the one drop or whatever, yucking it up. They don't understand exactly
50K in a couple hours on Twitch or whatever like
exactly.
that. Like, he knows that's not his expectation. Every time he's going to sit down at that 400, 800 game that he's going to pull, some five-figure
If he's
score.
the best player in that game, which you're
not going to.
You probably take issue with. He's going to win like what, 0.8 big blinds per 100 or something.
Well, he lost more than half of that back yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so they're big swings, but people don't see that.
And then the other thing that Daniel actually doesn't mention is sort of the alternative paths for somebody who's good enough to make that kind of money in poker. So if you're good enough to make $100,000 a year at poker, there are probably other things that you could make $200,000 a year at, in other jobs, in engineering or any, business, options trading, things of that nature. You've got a lot of chances out there to have that. But that wasn't the case in the mid 2000s because you could basically take a trained monkey and have him make like $100,000 a year, playing poker back.
I remember the statement was always the best poker player in the room is the biggest loser.
Right.
Because there's something he could be doing.
That's. Yeah.
And we talked about this before, and when we said would we do it again, and I look back and I think about my brother and how he went through it and grew up playing after watching me play, and he's done obviously quite well for himself.
Yeah.
But what I think becoming and if you're a young poker player now and you're entering and you think, because clearly it can be done, like Daniel said in his blog.
Oh, of course.
It can be done. So to say it can't be done is not accurate, right? No. It's the way to approach it.
And that's one of the things that, when you talk about, like, his audience was some people who are very clearly anti-gambling because it's obviously like a problem gambling club. So they're not going to want to look at this from a point of view of, oh, there's such a thing as professional poker. I mean, there are probably a lot of really anti-gambling people that think there's still no such thing as a professional poker player or professional gambler, when clearly there are. There are professional poker players. There are professional video poker players. There are professional sports bettors. There are lots advantage players of all stripes. In name a game that and there's somebody beating it, but it is rare and it is hard. And what's good about Daniel's blog is his response to this guy is that there is, yes, it can be done. Like, so let's not pretend like it can't be done, right? It's sort of like, if you're pro drugs or something like that and you think drugs should be legalized, let's not pretend that drugs don't ruin people's lives once in a while, because certainly they do. Does that make the case that all drugs should be outlawed? Certainly not. But you just really have to take a balanced sort of look at this and say, like, 95% of poker players lose money, and of the 5% who win playing poker, not all of them certainly are going to be able to pay the rent doing that. And of the ones who are able to pay the rent, maybe they could be making more money doing something else, or maybe happier doing something else.
One thing I will say, though, with poker, and for young people going into it, if they don't spend the rest of their life, it's a phase. It's a couple of years. They do quite well. They don't do, and then it doesn't go so well or something like that. You get desensitized to money at some point.
For sure.
So, but I don't know that that's always a bad thing, because I think that what that does is some bad things for sure. Like, it's going to be hard for you to go work at McDonald's if you've won $5,000 in a session,
right,
playing poker. But what it will do is make you look at what you're going to do next, not from a financial point of view, but for something that you enjoy doing. Like, it's okay, yeah, I'm going to go do that because I make 1.2 times more money than the thing I really love doing.
Right.
Well, I think if you've been through the ringer of playing poker, you might go ahead and pick the thing that you love doing more often than you would with the thing that you make 1.2 times what you would make.
It is a hard thing to get out of. I mean, I remember interviewing Matt Harvalenko on my own podcast a while back, and we talked about the trap of when you're making a ton of money at poker, like, oh, I'm going to go out and watch this movie, and this movie's going to cost me $600 because I'm not going to play, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a regular person to what does a movie cost? Well, it costs you $15 plus whatever popcorn costs, right?
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing. But one thing that poker teaches you really well is just to think critically, and make good sort of EV decisions in a wide variety of ways. So it helps you when you're going to buy a car, when you're going to buy a house, when you're thinking of making lending money to a friend. All of this stuff, when you start thinking about things in an EV and an expectation frame, that actually has a lot of really valuable life lessons. So if you are a young poker player, if you were a professional poker player and you got out of the game at 23, 24 years old, a lot of people say, well, oh, you've got nothing on your resume, you're so effed, all that. I don't think that's true at all, because I would take a lot of poker players who are successful because they have those critical thinking skills. Like, they can realize what's the EV of this extended warranty or this kind of thing.
Yeah, I totally
agree. Poker does teach you valuable skills about that and like Daniel said, entrepreneurship, I think.
So that there was a thread started in NVG about this blog, and
it went about as well as most NVG threads go, I would say.
Yeah, which is to say not very well. I love 2+2, and I spend a large amount of my day at it. NVG isn't my favorite forum, because
I read the headlines on NVG. Like, that's pretty much what I do.
Or I know who to skip over and not read, and I know
because it is really painful. I mean, it's called news, views, and gossip, and it's really heavy on the latter two, I would say. But yeah, it gets a little bit mean-spirited in a wide variety of places. People think Daniel's an idiot, and then Daniel comes in and he thinks other people are sheep and all this kind of stuff. And it gets way out of hand, and there's a lot of sort of petty bickering that goes on in there, but which is obviously unfortunate, because it's a thoughtful topic that's worth thinking about. But yeah.
So people took that opportunity to take shots at Daniel, and Daniel took that opportunity to take shots at other people or whatever. So if you can fade through some of those posts in that thread, you might.
I don't even know if you should do that. Maybe
just stay away from the blog altogether. All right, so that is going to do it for In Case You Missed It this week. We are going to go to Steve in a minute. First, I want to get a couple of forum shout-outs in, and then a little 140 or less and some stuff before we get that. So let's do that. Let's do the 140 or less first. Hit that 140 or less drop, sir.
It's 140 characters. That's it. I love hashtags. I love all of them.
Terrence Chan
needs more than 140 characters to express itself.
140 or less.
Vanessa Selps passed the bar exam. Anxiously studied twice as long as everybody else. Thus scored way higher than necessary. I want months of my life back. Can you be
humble brag?
Can you? First humble brag. But. Can you get too high of a score on your bar exam? It seems like something you would be telling your future employer how great I did on my.
I don't know.
I don't know anything about
this. Or is it like your driving test? Like, it doesn't matter whether you get like
you just
perfect
pass or fail,
or just barely. I don't know. But I thought
I just barely passed my bar exam.
Well, yeah, you just snuck in under the bar.
Yeah.
Also, another new minted female lawyer in the poker world, Sable Cohen.
I saw that. Yeah.
Also,
good for her. Congratulations.
The bar. So women in poker becoming lawyers is a thing this week.
It is indeed. Sean Deeb booked such a small win at Poker Night TV that my wife almost won more at 1-3 while we were filming, which.
It's hard to do.
Were you watching any of the?
I did not.
So I watched the very first beginning of it, and remember the last season when Sean slow rolled with the quads when he slow rolled Mr. Helmuth. The very first hand, like maybe the fourth hand in, Sean has the king six of hearts. He raises. Phil calls with ace queen of clubs. It comes like 10 jack 7, I want to say, 2 with 1 heart. Sean bets. Phil calls. Turns like a small heart. They both have air. Sean bets. Phil calls. Rivers is another small heart. And Sean bets, and Helmuth he's got, ace queen on the 10 jack 7 5 deuce board or something. And Sean bets, and he's like, you deserve a call here. You deserve a call. And I'm thinking, what can Sean have here that you beat? Like, if any at all? Like, so anyway, he calls. Wow. And Sean says king high. And Helmuth turns over the ace queen of clubs triumphantly, and Sean kind of looks at his hand and
my God, I can't believe
he waits probably 20 seconds and then flips over the flush and throws it out in the middle like he misread his hand or whatever. And I was just laughing my head off.
Oh, wow. See, it's so bad when, what we talked about the Doneco D, and I don't remember who the guy who slow rolled him was last week, how horrible that was.
This is different.
But it's always funny when it happens. Why is that?
Well, this is for the cameras. I mean, they've clearly talked about it. Their gloves are off. I'm sure that was the discussion before this started. So Sean wasted zero time in making runner and slow rolling them, which was fantastic. I loved it. Good fun. So I know you can check out the just like on Twitch on most channels, you can check out the archived coverage of that. So if you want to go check that out, have a look. And joining us now from the Isle of Man is Mr. Steve Day. Steve, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Good. We've got this is the day that the EPT Grand Final starts today, right? It's April 28th. The big. I looked at just a massive tournament, Steve. A massive schedule. A giant celebration of the EPT. I can't imagine that everybody is super excited that this thing's going.
Yeah, it's the big one every year outside of the PCA for us. And it's certainly the biggest in Europe. So, yeah, it's fantastic. It's a lot of folks go down there, meet the players. From the office, go down and meet the players, hold meetings. And like we typically do a lot of filming there as well. So it's, a lot going on down there.
Pokerstars has the newest millionaire. This is CCCP vodka, which I love. If you're an old school hockey fan like I am, you remember back to the days with the Russian Red Army with the CCCP on their front of their jerseys. That's what I thought of right away when I saw his screen name. We're having him on in a few minutes, Alexander. He's going to join us, but pretty amazing. One guy turns $5 into $1 million again. They're still going these $5 Spin&Go's for anybody who wants to step up and win a mill ball.
I'll probably stick around and listen to or watch that interview on Twitch because I'm pretty interested to see what he has to say myself. That's not an experience I've had in my poker career, I can tell you that. Turning $5 into $1 million. What does that possibly feel like? Because people win $1 million in poker, but turning that amount of money into $1 million, you either have to play for a really long time, right? Days and days and days. So you kind of get that experience of building up to it over time, or you're risking $1 million also, right? And winning it in cash games. But to go from just $5, having no expectations, and all of a sudden that big number hits, and then 10 minutes later you've won $1 million.
What do you do? What's the first thing you do?
I would say that's the most severe emotional swing I can imagine in online poker. So unexpected and so big.
Now, Steve, I have to give you and the company a hard time about this thing because, we were trying to track down some hand histories or some record about how this particular Spin&Go went, and we couldn't find anything. You would think if you guys are giving away $1 million, maybe you need some sort of hand history
shots fired
on this one. But, you got the Sunday Million hand history, so the technology exists. Why can't...
Oh, is there a replay? Yeah.
Yeah, why can't we see the hands that led to this guy turning 200,000 Xing his money?
The replay is an interesting idea. I will make a note of that. We did improve for this promotion some element of the surfacing in the clients. If you were actually on the client when it happened, you would have gotten a lot of notification, opportunity to come and watch. So it's every time we run it, we improve that stuff a little bit more. But replay is a great idea. So maybe we'll put that in for the next time we run something like this. It's a really good idea.
Lots going on at Stars. This is a fun time of year. Of course, the grand final, the EPT, but also Scoop is approaching. And you could argue that this Scoop, I know Stars likes to say the World Championship of Online Poker is their flagship sort of event every year online, but Scoop isn't far behind, and we're seeing here in Vancouver a lot of people, Steve, are rolling in here to set their Stars accounts up from the U.S. or wherever they're going to travel from to get going and play in this series. Looks like it's going to be a good one.
I'm excited. We're all excited. Yeah, the Scoop has the bigger prize pool. It is a really big series, and to some extent because of the three levels, right? The low, medium, and the high. So it's something for everyone. There's a lot of tournaments because of that. And yeah, so in terms of just the biggest money series, that's kind of what you get out of Scoop. And in terms of prestige for winning, from our perspective, and I think from many others, there's a lot of prestige in winning a WQ bracelet, right? It's more of a championship series. So there's fewer events. They're all none of the low price points. They're all, respectable buy-in amounts. Fewer tournaments and really tough competition.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Also noticed, not sure if you did, Steve, but there's now a prepaid Stars branded MasterCard, I believe, in the UK. So I thought that was neat for people who do live there. There's all kinds of different advantages for you to have it. If you're an online poker player in the UK, you can transfer funds easily back and forth from your credit card to your bank account to the Stars branded MasterCard. Prepaid card.
Just in time for Mother's Day, or at least the North American version.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, not over here. Right over here, that was.
We talked about. We know that
thing. But
right. because of the big Sunday Million, right?
Yeah.
On that day. No, it's I think we've had it in, I believe it's Italy. I could be wrong, for quite some time in a regulated market there, but. It's a great thing. It's people ask why don't you have that in all of your markets? It's quite a lot to get that set up, believe it or not. And there's different challenges in different markets, of course, but it's great for us to have it in the UK, and hopefully it'll go well, and we can try it on other markets as well.
We had Brad Willis on earlier, Steve, talking about the 10-year anniversary of the Pokerstars blog, and the amazing work that's. That Brad Willis and all of his colleagues over there have done over the last 10 years. I can imagine it was something that PokerStars looks upon fondly, those 10 years.
Yeah, he's been doing a great job. I remember as a player seeing Brad at the tournaments way back 10 years ago. He's been a staple. I can only imagine how much traveling he's done in the name of growing poker. But in terms of the stories that have been built around poker that form, a good part of the history and the culture, he's been just a fantastic integral part of making that happen, right? I can only imagine how much less history and how many fewer stories would be out there about poker without Brad Willis. He's done a fantastic job, always dedicated, always churning out lots of stuff, and always fantastic with delivering entertaining content. A couple of times I've contributed a couple things to the blog, and he's managed to turn my terrible contributions into at worst readable and at best entertaining. He's a fantastic editor as well.
We need a Steve Day bio segment in the PokerStars blog, I think. I think we need the feature expose on who is the man behind the voice. And,
some shots of playing hockey, exactly. All that kind of stuff. Working out at 7.
There was one time.
Was there?
There was one time. Well, not about that.
Easter egg to find that.
There was a little feature in the PCA or the EPT Monte Carlo program, one or the other, like 3 or 4 years ago, and then they did a blog article for one of the Sunday Million anniversaries, about the time that Serge and I came in first and second in the Sunday Million many years ago. We both work for PokerStars now. He beat me heads up. So that was more about that one particular tournament. But,
if you want to see it, Terrence, you just go to Steve's house. I'm sure it's framed up on the wall as you walk in the front door.
You see your suit and everything on this thing.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate it this week.
You already found it. Fantastic. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. I just wanted to thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you next week, sir.
Thanks, guys. It's good to have a conversation, and we'll speak again soon.
Bye now. And from the Isle of Man, we are going to now head on over to Moscow. And in case you missed it this week, PokerStars has their newest millionaire on hand from a $5 spin-and-go. His name is Alexander. He binked the mill ball a couple of days ago.
In his 6-minute spin-and-go.
In his 6-minute spin-and-go.
You must feel proud and good.
This is PokerStars' newest spin-and-go millionaire, Alexander. Alexander, welcome to the Pokercast, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation.
You're congrats. I mean, there's so much to ask you about what happened, but let's get right into sort of what your history of a poker player is. Have you been playing for a long time? Is it something that you do a lot of, or is it casual? What's your sort of poker experience, Alexander?
Well, I played around 6 or 7 years ago. But I never play like every day. I was playing like once in a month, maybe twice. I never participate in any tournaments, just playing poker on internet. So I'm a fishy.
Fishy with a whole bunch of money now. Give us an idea of what that was like the other day when you sat down. Have you played a lot of these $5 spin-and-goes? And the moment that you hit that, you realized you were playing in the $1 million game. What was it like? I mean, it's got to be the most amazing feeling.
Yeah, I guess so. I was losing $30, so I wanted just to turn them back. That's it. I wanted my $30 back.
You were trying to win the $30. You were stuck back. I know the feeling. You're playing there, and you're like, okay, I just need to win 2 or 3 or more of these, and I can quit and go to bed, right?
Yeah, and then, I had for $5, I saw like a blue screen, a green screen, even once a violet screen. It was like for 10 or something like that. And then I saw a different color of the table, and I saw many zeros, you know. No, but my first thought was it's just an advertising for another game, like join this game,
right.
Pay that much, and you may win between thousands and thousands of people. So I didn't pay attention.
Oh, so you didn't...
So I was like, okay, just an ordinary game.
Wow. So you didn't know
you're playing for $1 million.
You didn't know you were playing for $1 million until how long?
No, it was like for a few, I don't know for how long, like 30 seconds or 1 minute. And then I saw the messages, like on the screen in the left part. And was like hundreds of them, and I was, what's going on?
That's amazing.
And by that time, I was already with the Greek player.
Yeah.
Oh, you were already heads up.
Oh, you were.
I guess I won. Yeah, with the Russian guy.
Oh, so the other Russian has been eliminated, and you're only playing against the Greek player.
Yeah, it was like in a second or fifth hand. I don't know. I don't remember very well. But when I realized there was 2 of us.
Wow, that's amazing. You didn't even know when one of the guys got knocked out. You were playing for the $1 million.
So Alex, when you're playing, like talk about, did you change your strategy at all, or is the pressure? Or do you think you played this one like the same that you would play a $10 tournament or $20 tournament, or was did you feel a lot of pressure?
Well, of course, but I didn't want it to change my game, because I think it doesn't matter if you play a game for $1 million or a game for $5. I mean, it's of course it is different, but I don't going to wait until I get a big hand, like 2 aces, 2 Ks, or something like that. So I just tried to play normally, and normally I don't play well.
You don't think you play well? So, are you too aggressive? Like when you say you don't play well, what do you think? You're too aggressive?
Well, considering all the comments I got from all the people that loves me very much for the big win. Yeah, I'm a terrible player. I'm a bad fish. I'm a Russian joke.
But you also have $1 million in your account, which has got to be amazing, Alexander. I know.
Yeah, it warmed my feelings at night.
I guess it did. Yeah, for a couple of bottles of vodka. By the way, your screen name is fantastic, CCP Vodka.
Thank you, but unfortunately, I'm sober now. And always.
Good
almost.
For you. Good for you.
And I don't like vodka, you know.
But your screen name has vodka. I love it. That's
yeah. I'm Russian, but I don't like vodka. And I have a name on it.
Playing to the stereotype.
Yeah,
I like beer. I like tequila. I like whiskey. Now I think I will love whiskey of 20 years old.
Some good whiskey, yeah, for sure. So did you sit there and stare at your cashier page for a little while?
Well, I just saw this yellow screen name that vodka has won $1 million, and I was, nah, it's not me. Must be someone else.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And I was like, and the comments are going like, blah, 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 and so on. I'm going to shut the screen. And did I win?
Yeah.
Nah. Did I? Nah. And I was like 15 minutes thinking like that, and didn't went to the cashier to check it out.
And then,
and when I looked, it was like 1 million. It's 1 million or $10 and 00 and 00 cents.
Oh my God!
You must have a screenshot or something like that. Did you take a picture or a screenshot before you cashed? I mean, I assume. I guess I don't even know if you cashed out the money yet.
Right.
But did you cash it out?
No, I didn't. But I took screens from other people that posted.
Okay.
Are you going to try your hand at maybe a little 400, 800 PLO or anything like that?
One more time?
Oh, sorry. Are you going to jump into any of the big games that run on PokerStars to have a little bit of fun, or are you staying away from those and still
paying the rent?
Where do you go from here with your poker playing?
Responsible.
You've won $1 million. What are you going to play now?
I think I will stop for a while.
That's probably a good idea.
No, but yesterday I played and I won $3.
So it's $1,013,000.
So you got $1,013,000 now. That's good. It's a good return on your money.
Alexander, you're obviously not a professional poker player. Can you give us an idea what you do for a living and whether you actually showed up for work today?
Well, I also work in the radio station.
Oh. And you went to work?
Yeah.
You didn't quit?
No, basically, I need to keep working 2 more weeks by law.
So you did quit. You gave your notice.
No, but I still there, and well, it's a good job. You know, you're working there.
Sure.
So well, I will be there for maybe 2 more months.
2 more months.
Just to buy your coworkers a few drinks and remind them that you're the richest guy in the office.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't need this job anymore. You can walk in and just piss people off. Who cares, right? I'm out of here. Don't threaten me because I will quit. Alexander, what about the people around you?
Does your boss hear that you will quit?
Yeah, then he'd be quite upset. What about the people around you, Alexander? What did they think? Your family? Give us an idea of what their reaction was.
Well, I was alone that day, and my parents live apart, and my wife was studying at night, so she was about to come, and she was already near to the house when I called her and yelling at her that come here faster.
Yeah. Does she know you were playing these games?
Yeah. We played. Also, I explained her how to play, and she's better than me now. And so I told her that, hey, I won 1,000. Yeah.
1,000, you said? Perfect. Did she believe you won $1 million?
No, I think we didn't believe in 2 days, I guess.
Yeah, I can imagine it would take a while for it to sink in.
I mean, the maximum I hold in my hands was $10,000. That was the maximum.
Wow.
And now, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it couldn't have happened to a nicer person, Alexander. Good for you. Congratulations. I hope you still enjoy poker, and thanks for spending some time with us today. Really appreciate that.
Thank you for the invitation, and have fun, and good luck to everybody.
Well, there we go. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Alexander.
Well, that was fun.
That was so much better than I thought it was. Because you never know.
You eye rolled when I told you that we were having.
I didn't eye roll, but I was just like, oh, it's like some guy who just did something. But he's hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, he works in radio, so I guess that helps. But this is perfect. Like, that guy was awesome. I'm so happy for him. One thing I wasn't clear about the last thing. Does his wife actually know that he won $1 million? Because the 1,000 thing made me think like, oh yeah, honey, I won $1,000 tonight. I'm going to take you out to a nice dinner, and then he's stashing the rest under his mattress in Moscow.
He quit his job in 2 weeks. I love it. He still went to work. When I emailed him today, he was still working. He said, "Oh, I'll be home from work." Yeah,
given his 2 weeks
by law.
By law. Well, he's lucky it's not still the CCCP. Otherwise, he'd be working in the mine shaft.
Right. Well, and the ruble has devalued so much against the U.S. dollar.
He's even richer.
He is even richer than he would have been if he won it a year ago. I haven't looked at it lately, but it's.
I think that too. Actually, when I'm playing on Stars, playing cash with inflation,
you're playing bigger than you think you are.
Yeah, I'm technically playing a little bit bigger.
Yeah, because the Canadian dollar sucks.
You're playing $1.20, $2.40.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's going to wrap it up for this week. It's a bit shorter of a show, but we tried to cram as much in there as we could. Appreciate everybody who listened on Twitch and who are going to listen to the archives. We're going to try and Twitch this thing. It's a bit messy with when we jump around and stuff, so we'll see how this goes, if people enjoy it or not on Twitch. But we also should probably work on getting everything in order. It's just really difficult with guests because they all tend to be, some people will need one time during the day and another person will need another time. And if it doesn't sort of flow with
we have guests from Europe and North America, which is probably by far the hardest part, sometimes even Asia.
Yeah, when you're over there. So it's tough to get everything in line to do it in a row. And that's the issue we've always sort of wondered when we thought about, doing the show on Twitch. Is it a good idea because we do jump around and it, people kind of be lost a little bit, but
they can deal with it.
Yeah, that's that's what we're going to do. Continue on doing that, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks so much to Terrence for coming in. Thanks so much to Mr. Rossco P. Coltrane for producing as usual in these fine studios. And thanks to we got lots of people to thank this week. We have Brad Willis from the Pokerstars blog on for the 10th anniversary. Appreciate that. Doug Polk for joining us and talking about the bot challenge that he's on, and Alexander, of course, from Russia,
the newest millionaire,
and Steve Day from Stars. Thanks for everybody. Thanks to everybody who came and spent some time with us today, and
also,
to you.
Thank you to Jamie Staples for hosting us
and
helping me with a little bit of Twitch stuff.
We bow to Mr. Staples' Twitch superiority. The man is a legend, and really appreciate all the help that he does give us. We need it. We are new to this whole thing.
Flying blind here.
We're flying semi-blind. Yes, you're right, Russ. Thanks to him as well. But thanks to the listeners. Those are the people we need to thank the most for tuning in each week. You keep us coming back. Really appreciate it. Head on over to the forums and drop into the TV Poker Hand Madness thread and vote for your favorite hand. Send in your comments and questions for the show. We read them each week on the program. And we will talk to you next week.
Bacon.
Bacon, 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 bacon.
Slice it up in bacon. We got all those bacon strips. And bacon strips. Bacon strips. Bacon strips. Bacon strips. Bacon strips. Bacon strips.
Thanks for joining us. The 2+2 Pokercast has been presented to you by the Pokerstars VIP